guys. Hey, everyone. Welcome. You guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. Lindsie Chrisley has put out a three-part, tell-all, my side of the story of what went wrong with my relationship with my very famous parents, Todd and Julie Chrisley. She has given her whole side of the story. If you,
this when it's wet.
I need to, I always forget to mute my phones. Anyways, so Lindsay's putting her side of the story out. And if you follow Todd, Julie, Savannah, Chase, you know that before the Chrisleys went to prison, Todd and Julie, they talked about their issues with Lindsie and Kyle on their podcast, Chrisley Confessions. Was it Chrisley? Yeah, Chrisley Confessions. They talked about it, very open about it, sharing, kind of what went down. They talked about her involvement with the FBI and everything. Now, before the Chrisleys went to prison, however, they reconnected with Lindsie. They did a podcast together. However, at the sentencing hearing is where it all fell apart again, because at the sentencing hearing, when Todd and Julie were sentenced, mind you, the prosecution was seeking a life in prison. Like, they were seeking life in prison for Todd and Julie. I think Todd for sure. At that sentencing hearing, the prosecution read like an email from Lindsie, and it kind of solidified, because Lindsie was like, yeah, I talked to them, Josh Waits wanted me to talk to him, but I didn't tell him anything. I didn't say anything to him. He called me in for a meeting. I had no information to give, didn't tell him nothing. But at the sentencing hearing, they read an email that she wrote in where she said like that her dad was harassing her, and that she couldn't wait until like he went to jail or something like that. I don't really remember. I think she's going to go over it in this episode. We watched some of it over on TikTok this morning. But we're going to watch it again here on YouTube. I do know some of you guys follow me on TikTok, so you guys may have been there with me this morning. But for those, I know I have a few people that don't have a TikTok, so I wanted to make sure I came over here and went over the part 2 as well. Part 2 gets interesting. It is mainly where they are talking about the tape. How she claims Todd and Chase were trying to like blackmail her. Hey, Gail. They also she talks about, Todd requesting a meetup and him asking, are you wearing a wire? And how harmful that was. And I'm like, girl, I don't blame him for asking if you were wearing a wire. Y'all were estranged, and then he tries to meet up with you, and he wants to make sure he already knows for certain that you've talked with the FBI. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna get into it because this episode is an hour and 17 minutes. And while I try to take timestamps again to get like, hey, we're just gonna watch what is needed, the whole thing is pretty interesting. So we're gonna go ahead. We're just gonna watch the whole thing pretty much. We are gonna start at the 44-second mark where they start talking about Todd's tweets, Savannah's tweets. Now, Kale and Lindsie basically say that Savannah and Todd just started tweeting out of nowhere. So what I went and did is I went and found the tweets, looked at the date, and then I put the date in Google with Lindsay's name, Todd's name, Savannah's name. And what I actually found out was this was right after she accused Julie of assault, which makes a lot of sense because they start out with Savannah's tweet. Savannah tweets like, come for me, fine. Come for my mother. That's a different story. So it makes sense. They had the confrontation, Lindsie and Julie. Lindsie called Julie a bitch. It got physical from Todd and Julie and Savannah and all their side. It was, Lindsie was the aggressor. From Lindsay's side, Julie was the aggressor. I can't say I really believe that Julie was the aggressor. That's just my opinion. Maybe so. Maybe I'm wrong. But Kale and Lindsie try to act like these tweets just came out of nowhere. We don't know. Like nothing. And Lindsie, Kale even says something along the lines of like, you hadn't talked to any of them. She's like, no, I don't know. Like, just came out of nowhere. Like, girl, first off, it didn't take me long to put the dates in, to look it up. And literally it was right there. It was right after the you accused Julie of assault and you walked away from the show. So I know I sent some. Okay, let me get these pulled up because I went and grabbed the tweets too, just so I could have them. And so I could show them because Kale Elle doesn't show them. She reads them off, but she doesn't show them. So I wanted to make sure I had them. All right. Chicken head. Okay, let's go. And I literally, you guys, this is how I work. When I have to watch something, I have to listen to it like on very fast speed because I'm always super busy. Okay.
A month after that, Todd tweets again, like mother, like daughter, once a cheater, always a cheater, once involved about the incident that occurred.
Okay, sorry. Let's back it up.
Is that right?
Correct.
So it's on record, it's noted, but nothing is resolved. Nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
A month after that, Todd tweets again, like mother, like daughter, once a cheater, always a cheater, once a liar, always a liar, hashtag truth may cost you your kid, hashtag it's coming out, hashtag gloves off. Had you had communication since that incident and your attorney's reaching out to production, did you have any contact with Todd?
No.
No. So he starts tweeting.
Okay, so let me, all right, here's the screenshot of, just to put this in perspective from the timeline that I was able to figure out. This is June 29, 2017. Too funny. Come after me. I really don't care. Come after my mama. You're over. Watch what you tell when your bed isn't clean. Hashtag literally. So, like I said, June was when she accused Julie of assault, when everything happened. And then she went and told, production and the media company that Julie hit her, whatever. Todd responded, especially when there's been more men in your bed than your husband has spent time there. Hashtag two bachelors, in-laws, videos, photos. Let's do this. September 13th. Like mother, like daughter, once a cheater, always a cheater, once a liar, always a liar. Hashtag truth may cost you your child. Hashtag it's coming out. Hashtag gloves are off. Now, from what I figured out, this would have been around the time that she was leaving the show, like that she made it known she was leaving the show. I don't know if that's why he made this tweet. Also, this you may lose your child. I don't agree with Todd tweeting any of this. I think that was wrong. I think you try to keep you don't put your problems on social media, especially when it comes to your kids, right? Now, from my understanding, so the incident happened in June. Right? The incident happened in June. That's why Savannah made this post. You got this conversation with my mom. You went to production telling my mom that telling them that my mom hit you, whatever. You're trying to make this big stink with production to get my mom in some type of trouble, whatever. And then September, 3 months later, is when she made the decision to walk away from the show or whatever. Like I said, I don't know if that has anything to do with it. However, per my research, oh, thank you. You're awesome too. Per my research, though, me just kind of digging into everything, outlets reported that she cheated on Will, that Lindsie cheated on Will, that it wasn't like she left Will and then messed around with a couple of guys, that there was two times of infidelity, 2 bouts of infidelity on her behalf or whatever. And so I'm wondering if the truth may cost you your child is him just saying and if Will finds out the truth that you cheated, he could, take you for custody of Jackson. I don't know. I don't really think this is him threatening to take our kid, but him saying if Will finds out this information, he might take your child. However, like mother, like daughter, once a cheater, always a cheater, once a liar, always a liar. That's, I'm not going to lie. He said some harsh things. He really did. And definitely, listen, even though I'm a fan of somebody and I like them and I try to, if they did something wrong, I will say it. So let's get back into the video. So, but her basically trying to say she don't know why. Oh, I don't know why they're talking about me. I don't know why they're tweeting. Girl, it's pretty obvious why Savannah tweeted. Come after me, fine. Come after my mom, you're over. So clearly, Lindsie, you were coming after her mom. You were doing something behind the scenes to make her feel like you were coming for her mom. Savannah is, I don't see Savannah as just someone that's going to act like you came for her mom for no reason. And now we all know, though, it was around that same time that the confrontation happened. So clearly that's what she was talking about.
Essentially out of left field.
Yeah, at 5:50 a.m. it appears. I guess he woke up thinking this.
Oh, he's tweeting out of left field.
Okay. So this was his first thought waking up.
Like mother, like daughter, once a cheater, always a cheater, once a liar, always a liar. Truth may cost you your child. It's coming out, gloves off. Okay.
He immediately tweets following that same day, quote, sometimes those that lie need to be exposed in order to stop the madness. Hashtag cheated twice. Hashtag thank God for puppy cams. Hashtag JAMRH. Hashtag sue me over the truth. Hashtag psycho.
Oh, that was at 5:47 a.m.
That is
Okay. So Todd's
Must have
woke up
been a
and chose
strain of
violence.
thoughts.
I'm a little upset by this because learning that there could be a sex tape that you did not consent to is absolutely terrifying. Your father using that against you is absolutely horrendous.
And while I can say if I'm taking accountability here, right? I am not proud that I chose to date someone through a separation. I'm not proud of that. But it happened.
See, she says she's taking accountability, but and maybe the media outlets are wrong. But if she had extramarital affairs when she was still married, her saying, "Oh, I'm taking accountability. I shouldn't have dated while separated." Well, then she's still lying and hiding. But maybe we're getting false info. I don't know. But I actually, because I was trying to like figure out like, okay, what was going on around this date? What was going on around this date? What was happening around this date? Why would Todd have tweeted that? Why would Savannah have tweeted that? And I literally found articles saying she cheated. Right, Zoe. Facebook or Twitter or anywhere, anything like that about my kids. I wouldn't. I mean, I could not imagine doing that. Now, if they went to the FBI on me and my husband, and we were looking at like 10 to 20 years in prison, that might could push me over the edge. But I still think I would try to hold back.
I did not consent to any type of video. In fact, I'm mortified by even thinking that it could possibly exist. But it's even more mortifying that your dad knows about it. And then it's further mortifying knowing that it ended up on Twitter.
Did you reach out to your dad at this point to address these tweets at all?
I don't believe so.
Don't believe so. Okay.
So thank God for puppy cams. Hashtag JAMRH. If you follow the bouncing ball here, there was the tweets from June 29th, 2017 with hashtag 2bachelors. Okay. So June 29th, 2017, we are now over to September 13th, 2017 with those hashtags. The hashtag JAMRH is Josh Allen Murray and Robbie Hayes.
Why would your dad feel comfortable? And this is more rhetorical. This is more directed directly to Todd. Why would you feel?
Kale, you don't want to comfort Todd. Girl, he would drag you to filth, especially over having so many baby daddies and kids. Not that I have an issue with it, but girl, he so would. Kale, you better watch your step.
Comfortable naming other people in your mess with your daughter? Why would you think that's appropriate? I cannot imagine as a mother, as a parent, handling the hurt with my child in this way. This is...
Could you imagine though your child talking to, the lead investigator that's investigating you for bank fraud, tax fraud, that's trying to send you away? Also, Lindsie admitted, is it on this one that she admits that Josh Waite told her, Josh Waite, the guy that works for the FBI that's trying to send her parents to prison, is it in this episode where she says that Josh told her that in his office they have like a dartboard or something, a bullseye dartboard of Todd's face, that they are a punching bag or something of Todd's face that they throw darts at or punch or something like that? So you mean to tell me, how would you guys feel if you are called in to meet with the FBI who's trying to send your parents away, and the investigator is like, first off, for Josh to give that info to Lindsie, for Josh to even tell Lindsie that tells me that he had talked to her so much that there was a level of comfortability there for him to even say that, because that was very unprofessional of him to share that. That was very unprofessional for him to be like, oh, by the way, my coworkers got a punching bag with your dad's face on it. They put it in my office, so we hit it all the time. Like the fact that he shared that, if he had only met with her one time, he's going to keep it professional. He's going to ask a question that he needs. He's going to leave his card and say, if you think of anything else, please give me a call. The fact that he was kikiing it up with her tells me that they had like a very comfortable friendship where a relationship where he felt comfortable to tell her that. But yeah, I think that was all I was going to say about that. So when Kale's asking, what would make your dad feel comfortable enough to tweet these tweets? Well, what would make his daughter feel comfortable enough to be talking to the fans? Kale is not like, I don't know. I know that's her friend, so I can understand. It's harder to call your friends out.
Highly upsetting, and I can't say that whatever he was thinking of you at that time, he was no better. And in fact, him being the parent is worse because I can't, I think about the times that I don't agree with my kids. I'm not going to go online and rip them to shreds simply because I don't agree with what they're doing, the choices they make, their lifestyle, right? Like, that's not what I'm here to do.
If they were talking to the feds, would you trying to have you put away for life and take you away from your other kids? Mind you, Grayson was how old when they went to prison? 16? Yeah, he was 16. How old was Chloe?
And I also
if Elliot become BFFs with Joe, started living at Joe's house, become estranged from you, and then worked with like Javi to have Lincoln taken from you, worked with Javi to talk to CPS to talk about how you're unfit and you don't take care of your kids and you're never there with them, and you were at risk of losing your kids. Maybe then would you get a little emotional and tweet something, post something, talk about it on a podcast? I don't know,
don't understand. Hashtag sue me over the truth. No one's suing you.
I don't like that.
Okay, so I did find an article where Lindsie threatened to sue Savannah. So I don't know if him saying like hashtag sue me was in reference to like, sue us. Like if you come for Savannah, if you sue her, you're coming after, like, it'll be us. I don't know. Because I did try to find if there was any public record or if Lindsie ever publicly said that she was going to sue her father, her dad, or Julie, and the only thing that I can find was she made comments that she would sue Savannah.
The psycho hashtag either, because that's implying that you're a psycho. He's essentially calling his own daughter a psycho.
Yeah, but I wasn't even engaging in this stuff.
I remember these things in
Girl! She wasn't even engaging in this stuff. So I went to Without a Crystal Ball's channel because I distinctly remember when all of this was happening, all the tweets was happening, Katie Joy from Without a Crystal Ball was coming so hard for Todd and Julie. She was mocking them. She was telling how they were going to go to prison. She would start lives with scissors and glue in her hands. Thought, hey, today I'm going to be pasting fake documents to get loans. Ha 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 ha. She literally, it was a whole bit that Katie would do. And she said repeatedly about how she was BFFs with Lindsie Chrisley, and Lindsie Chrisley was giving her information. So I remember all of this happening. I went to Katie's page today, though, to look for that. And I even went to her playlist. There's not even one playlist for the Chrisleys. It's all gone. Now, I'm assuming when Todd sued her, maybe she agreed to take it all down. That's what I'm assuming. But I was able to find like some clips of where she talked about being good friends with Lindsie. There was this one creator saying that Katie was lying because, and I'll tell you why. There was a creator because this was this creator, Katie, shared messages between her and Lindsie. Also, there was a time ago that someone was trying to say that Kale uses the N-word, okay? And this person reached out to Kale. No. Yeah. This person reached out to Kale. No, Lindsie, sorry. This person reached out to Lindsie and was like, your coworker, Kale, is racist. She says the N-word. I got proof. You need to dip out on her before she gets you in, y'all got a podcast. She's going to get you in trouble. Your podcast's going to get canceled. Like, you need to dip out on her. She's a racist. I got evidence of her. What's it? Hold on. Let me make sure I get this right because it's been a few years. Yes. Okay. So that's what it was. I'm trying to think, was it Lindsie that was being accused of being the racist or Kale? It was Kale. Okay. Because people was literally like, hold on. She only dates black people. She has mixed children, so surely she's not right. So there was a lot of confusion over it. However, during this, Lindsie sent Kale the messages that she was getting. Kale's like, ask them for proof. It's not true. Ask them for proof. It's not true. All these text messages went up on a thread on X, Twitter back then. So I found some info into the text messages, right, on who it could have possibly been. I did not think Kale was racist. I did, and Lindsie was like, I need to know if she is. Lindsie is telling this person, like, listen, if you have proof of that, please send it to me. I have a niece that is mixed, and I don't want to associate with anybody that is racist. So if you do have evidence of this, please send it to me, right? So, anyways, I get in touch with Kale, and I may still have the messages. I get in touch with Kale, and I'm telling her what I know about the messages and how there is no video of her saying the N word. This is just like a catfish, just trying to start crap or whatever. And me and Kale start talking about Lindsie being friends with Katie Joy from Without a Crystal Ball. And Kale says that they were friends, but Lindsie figured out that Katie was psycho, that Lindsie was talking to Katie, and they talked for some time, but she figured out she was psycho and she wants nothing to do with her. So that was something that Kale said, like, yeah, oh my goodness. Like, yeah, she said they talked for a while, they were cool for a while, but she realized that she was crazy. And now she's like trying not to have anything to do with her because she's crazy. And I'm like, she is so crazy. Like, if you talk to Katie for 2 weeks, she thinks you guys are BFF. She's telling you she loves you when you get off the phone. And then she's on lives talking about her BFF, Elle Bee or Todd Chrisley or whatever. But at some point, Lindsie said there was a creator that was saying things about her and that they were friends, and that it was not true. So, per what I was told, and Katie said several times on lives, oh, my friend Lindsie, we're friends. I do think Lindsie was cool with her for a while. Lindsie used Katie to put info out about her parents, to fight back against her parents without it being her doing it, tweeting and all that. She gave info to Katie and let Katie do videos about it and like attack her parents. However, Katie does what she always does. She ends up screwing you over. She ends up telling stuff that you asked her not to share. And she this is what she always does. She tries to run your life, tells you what you should and shouldn't do. And, and she always, like, her sources always end up getting screwed in the long run because she'll out them or she'll give information that they trusted her with, but they told her not to tell. And she always does it. So she always ends up having issues. So I think what happened was they were cool. Lindsie used her to attack her parents, gave her information. They were friends. In KJ's mind, they were best friends. And then when KJ started doing what KJ does, which is taking it too far, Lindsie was like, oh crap, and cut her off and stopped being friends with her. And Lindsie denied that they were ever friends. However, literally, I mean, when I reached out to Kale about those messages and about this video and told her, like, it's no video, Lindsie better be careful with KJ. She's like, oh, yeah, she was cool with her for a while, but oh my goodness, she's realized she's psycho. They're not cool anymore. So Kale herself said that Lindsie and KJ were cool. Maybe they weren't best friends like KJ thought. And then when Lindsie and her dad reconnected in like late 2023, 2024, whatever, when they reconnected, she told Todd, oh, I never talked to Katie. I never talked to her. And Todd believed her. And Todd said on a podcast, you say you were friends with my daughter. My daughter says she never spoke to you. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure Katie released text messages between her and Lindsie. I'm pretty sure Lindsie was like in her chat at times. And I'm pretty sure Kale even admitted that Lindsie was cool with her. So unless words.
When I was it's Katie.
All day at the hospital.
Had to go shopping.
What's up?
I have been all day at the hospital with my son, not using him as a shield, as some of you think. That was literally what I was doing this afternoon, and I've been receiving messages this afternoon while I was like at the hospital with him, going to regular appointments. And as soon as I got home and it's like an hour away, and I drove and blah blah blah, and I got home and I got a message from my friend.
Can y'all hear the video? Because my mic did mute. But can y'all hear the video or no?
A lot of you know that I'm sitting here wondering.
Oh, music.
Friends have become friends with Lindsie Chrisley, who does a podcast with Lowry from Teen Mom 2. When I was it's Katie whole day at the hospital to go shopping. What's up? I have been all day at the hospital with my son.
Give me a second. I gotta there's a couple that I found where she did talk about being friends with Lindsie Chrisley. And for some reason, one of the creators that did these videos thought that Katie was lying. I guess because Todd said it, because there is a video where Todd said, Lindsie said she's never talked to you. Like she was not friends with you. Todd believed it. So this creator that covered Katie believed it, but Lindsie were
under federal
Lindsie, maybe she wasn't friends with her, but she definitely talked to her.
indictment. Okay. I'm not going to say who this is about. I'm not going to say what it's about. I'm just going to say this. Okay. If you're under federal indictment and you're about to go to trial and you could get locked up for decades, it's probably not smart to threaten or intimidate people that you believe are victims or witnesses of your case, whether directly or indirectly.
Okay, because Lindsie was telling Katie that Todd was harassing her and she could potentially be a witness in the case.
I know that you know that I know things and you're scared of those things that I know, but I don't lie and I have nothing to hide.
But you do lie.
I also know that I was on the phone this week with the FBI and they know everything that's happening. So
Lindsie tells Katie stuff about her parents, and then Katie calls the FBI to tell.
all of this stuff that's happening, the FBI and the prosecutors know about. And we're actually meeting with them next week.
So Lindsie, who at the time of these tweets, she's like, I don't know, I didn't do anything. Maybe publicly she wasn't saying anything or doing anything, but she was talking to Katie, telling Katie all kind of stuff. Katie was putting it out in videos. Katie was talking crap in videos. And then Katie was talking to the feds too, and the prosecutor too, and telling the feds and the prosecutor the stuff that Lindsie was telling her.
So
You think Katie didn't tell her friend Lindsie? Oh, well, I called the FBI. Or you don't think Lindsie didn't tell Katie? Yeah, you can call the FBI and let them know that.
if you want to keep playing this game, that's fine. I'm not under federal indictment. I'm not under investigation. And if you're under federal indictment, okay, I'm not going to say who this is about. I'm not going to say
So
what it's-
Lindsie definitely was in the background doing some shady stuff. And it's just wild to me that she's like, oh, I wasn't doing anything. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think Katie thought they were friends because there's one video. She was like, that's my best friend. She's like, that is my best friend. And Todd, you will not hurt my best. She was literally like going out. And I may have that one. I was just going to get back to playing the video because it is long. Well, this one is about where Todd says, Lindsie says she's never talked to you. So it just shows that Lindsie lied to her parents about it. But yeah, there was one video where she was like, you are not going to hurt my best friend. If you hurt my best friend, I will come for you. So but that is how KJ is. I have personal experience with KJ, and that is very much how she is.
And that we're putting our branding together for coffee combos. You and I are essentially friends at this time, and I don't remember you responding to it. I can't say that for certain.
I don't believe anybody reached out at this time.
Yes, she
Okay. I
did.
believe that my
Legally.
attorneys were only in communication regarding the investigation of the incident that occurred on set and me leaving Chrisley Knows Best.
Okay. And then potentially the police report about said puppy cam
Yes.
at some point.
This Sue thing continues to come up, dating all the way back to 2012, because in this cease and desist, I will have my attorneys file suit against you for slander and defamation of character. If you are broke now, wait until you pay an attorney $50,000 to defend your lies. You are a fraud. I've never threatened to sue him, and then he says sue me over the truth. Like, I don't understand what's going on.
It feels
mentally.
like projection, but it just feels like a really immature way to handle a conflict with your daughter, no matter how estranged you may be, no matter how tumultuous your relationship may be. This feels like the wrong way to go about it.
And it's just truly improper use of social media. While I understand there aren't rules on how you can and cannot use social media, I personally feel like this should have been handled in a more private manner. And regardless if people want to acknowledge it or not, we were in a family business together. We were doing a show together. It doesn't matter what somebody's role on that show was. We were all participating in that show together. I wanted to handle it as business. Like, this is a family issue, but also there is a business involved.
I would also like to note that when the audience is seeing a family like yours and is highly likable on Chrisley Knows Best, and it seems that you are the odd one out, it's easy to say, well, Lindsie is the problem. So you don't even have to know full context of any situation, and what everybody else says is the truth, and nobody's seeing any other way, which I can imagine would be very, very difficult for you because you're ostracized from your family in real life, but then also the audience of the show and the fan base following Chrisley Knows Best is probably also ostracizing you in some way.
For sure. And I think, there's always going to be situations where somebody likes him and somebody like
Kiki says it's cute that Kayla's giving relationship advice, right?
me, and then somebody likes Savannah, and it's like, because that one person likes Savannah and Todd, then they don't like me, so I think that that's true for any show, right? But I do think that there was an intent to ostracize me to some degree from the beginning back to the pilot, with me just not agreeing with my dad. I don't know why that was the case.
I was going to try to say the rest of your name, but I'm not. Chris Maltesa? Chris, can I call you Chris? Thank you, Chris.
It's fine that it was the case, was willing to be a participant on the show.
What Louisiana you at?
Go and do what I was brought there to do. However, this was just very disheartening because it made me look like I was something that I was not. And regardless of, me seeing somebody through a separation or getting back with my husband, those are private matters that should have remained private matters and weren't for the general public to know.
No, because it's not up for public opinion, and it should have never been handled that way.
Further, if I wanted the public to know that, that's my story to tell.
Correct. And I feel like you have been gracious enough for this entire episode so far to not share parts of this that should remain to the people whose story it is. Yes, it was a part of your life, but it's their full story. So a couple weeks later, we're in October of 2017 at this point. We were in the process of starting Coffee Combos. So you and I have already communicated. We've signed contracts. We've done all of that. And your attorney reaches out to the attorneys for Chrisley Knows Best to let them know that you have the opportunity to appear on another reality TV show. I can only assume that was Teen Mom because the timelines
Girl, shut up. Me too.
add up. And so they're attempting to confirm that they're aware of the situation and that you have this opportunity. And were you under contract still with Chrisley Knows Best?
Yes, I was still under contract with Chrisley Knows Best. And you and I were launching Coffee Combos. And I remember that there were scenes that were going to be filmed, I guess, for Teen Mom to discuss maybe the podcast. I can't really exactly remember what we filmed. But I do know, per your producer, I had to reach out to the production company to get clearance to be able to film with MTV.
For anyone listening, there is a very big emphasis placed.
Let's jump to that. Nobody cares about any of that. Hold on. Let me jump.
Was started of me attempting to get out of my contract with Chrisley Knows Best and any obligations that I had to the network or production.
What was the timeline on that contract? Like, would you have been under contract for much longer? Or was it already at the end of the contract?
No, it was not at the end of the contract because they had the option to send me pickup letters if they wanted to.
So here she asked, was it at the end of your contract? And she said no. And a little bit she's going to say, well, I filmed anyways. And it says, she says, well, what did they do about it? Oh, and nothing, because by the time we filmed, I was out of my contract. But here she says, no, it wasn't close to it. So maybe they filmed way later than, because she says, no, we weren't. But then she goes, oh, well, I filmed and they couldn't do anything because I was out of my contract. I don't know.
Technically could have to keep me under contract. They could have continued to send me pickup letters throughout the duration of the show, even if they weren't using me to hold me to my contractual obligations to the show, to the network, to the production company.
And that also is not uncommon. There are loopholes in all the reality contracts to keep you under contract for years after you even realize that you're under them. So
the initial email that was sent, just for reference for you, it's reaching out to my dad's acting agent, which technically I guess was all of ours.
Marcia, why do I keep cutting in and out? That's weird.
My attorney at the time says, good morning. I just want to reach out to you regarding Miss Campbell. She has the opportunity and will be appearing on a television show in the middle of October. We just wanted to make you aware of the situation since you and I have been in discussions regarding the termination of her contract. Please let me know if you have any questions. I look forward to hearing from you. Best, Musa. Okay, so then we go to a response email that says, Musa, are you referring to the termination of her engagement agreement with my firm or the proposed termination of her agreement with USA? On the latter, she is still under an exclusive obligation to the network. If you want to give me more information about the opportunity, perhaps I can be helpful in getting the network to allow a carve out.
So what ended up being the case for that?
I just filmed.
You just did it.
Yeah.
And were there any repercussions?
No, because by the time, I'm not going to say who, but I was just told based off of potential airing dates that I would already be out of my contract by the time whatever we filmed aired.
Okay. So for you, it was worth the risk.
Yeah.
Okay. And about a month later, a little more than a month, your attorney reached out again for Chrisley Knows Best, seeking to have you released from all exclusivity obligation to the network, the production company. And they're going to let you film too. Like you just do it anyway, but they also end up agreeing. Is that right? Okay.
Correct.
This was when you prepared to film for Teen Mom, Coffee Combos launches, and you get the clearance. Now there is somewhere between October of 2017 and February of 2018, there are contracts, the contract termination sent to you. Is that right?
Yes, and one email that I found very interesting as I was combing through this stuff, their acting agent says, I'm happy to try to help, but I have yet to get a clear indication of what you're looking to accomplish. Based on our calls, I'm assuming that you're looking to get Lindsie released from her exclusivity obligations to the network and production company in exchange for executing a release of claims, confidentiality, and non-disparagement agreement. However, we need you to confirm this to me via email. Your emails have yet to give me clear direction on what you were looking to achieve on behalf of Lindsie. If my assumptions are correct, please advise, and I'm happy to engage with the production company and network to advocate on your behalf to try to help them get on board.
Who's asking for a non-disparaging agreement?
That was
a lot of I'm surprised Kel doesn't know this, but a lot of time when you part with a company, they will ask for you to sign like a non-disparaging agreement that you will not, go off and like bash them.
The agent at William Morris that represented the family. So it was if you want out of the contract,
we need this
in exchange. Why can't I just get out of my contract? I did want to hit on this email though, because I think it's important because of the last name things that have come up. There were discussions, and I don't know if these discussions happened over the phone with the acting agent at William Morris and my attorney, but it was said to me that I could not use the Chrisley last name for any future project.
Including our podcast?
Including the podcast.
I agree.
But that is your birth given name.
My attorney follows up and says, I had the opportunity to speak to Lindsie and we are in agreement with the terms that you described. However, Lindsie does go by the name Lindsie Chrisley Campbell and intends to continue using the name. Lindsie's name is written as Chrisley Campbell on a driver's license, marriage certificate, and all other forms of ID. I trust that this is not a problem. Other than the aforementioned, we are in accord and look forward to your response with a written termination agreement.
For clarity purposes, and I know that you've talked about this before on Coffee Combos as well as the Southern Tea, you never dropped Chrisley at any point.
At any point. When I got married.
That's crazy. She should never be able to use Chrisley. I mean, that was always her name. And then when she got married, she didn't drop it. So it was still her name. So I think Ty was just being petty, saying, well, you know what? If she wants to leave the show, then she needs to drop the Chrisley name. I think he was being petty for that. But at the end of the day, it was her name. She can use it.
My married last name, I dropped my middle name, which is Brooke. My name that was on all documents was Lindsie Chrisley Campbell.
Okay.
It was Lindsie Chrisley Campbell on social media platforms until I got divorced. When I filed for my divorce, I filed for a restoration of my maiden name along with my divorce filing.
Was there anything said to whoever made this request that no, she's absolutely going to go by Chrisley? That is her birth given name. What other name would they have expected you to go by?
A stage name? I don't know.
in an attempt to what? Erase you from the family?
Yes,
Out of sight, out of mind. She doesn't even have our last name.
I believe that that is true.
Okay. So the rest of 2018 is fairly
Yes,
quiet.
Marsha, this is how she
And
felt.
entering 2019, you learn that Chase Chrisley, your brother, has contacted someone that you dated, Robbie Hayes, who is the bachelor that your dad was referring to, for a business opportunity. At what point did Robbie let you know, or how did you find out that he was being summoned for this business opportunity? And when did you learn that it was actually about nude photos of you?
I did not learn about this until the indictment had come down. I had had the conversation with my dad. So I learned about this after the fact that TMZ had released the information of the police report that I had filed regarding the alleged sex tape. That's when Robbie reached out to me and I gave him my attorney's information, and I had actually never received these text messages. My attorney received them and turned them over to the U.S. Attorney's Office. So it was never a situation of, at the time that these text exchanges were going on, was I receiving like in tandem this stuff. I did not know any of these communications had transpired until after Robbie reached out to me and I directed him to my attorney.
Why did he reach out to you? Just to let you know what was going on?
Once he saw all of the media and the stuff that was going on, I don't know. I don't want to necessarily speculate, but I think knowing that he had this information, he wanted to provide it to my attorney.
And I'm glad he did. We're moving right along. So Chase is texting Robbie. You find out once sort of the news of your parents' indictment hits the news.
And I asked Robbie at that time, because I was unaware of this. This was going on, per the text message screenshots, it was going on starting April 9th, 2019. I was not aware in April of 2019 that this was happening. But once he did reach out, I wanted to know when it started and how it started. Didn't want to accuse anybody of anything, and also didn't want to go off of hearsay either. Like if this is what's transpiring, then provide that information. But I asked Robbie, please don't provide that information to me. I will give you my attorney's email and phone number, and please contact him and you can provide him with that information.
Why didn't you want it directly?
I think I was already in such an emotional state that I didn't want to harm myself further than what I needed to. And my attorney became such a friend to me at that time. And I know that's a weird thing to say because acting in a legal capacity, but I think that he saw the level of hurt that was going on, and had been going on for a long period of time. I locked myself in a room for months, and he was one of the only people that I communicated with. And so I felt like I couldn't trust anybody, but I knew I could trust him, and I wanted him to preview what was said. And he actually didn't turn these text messages or any of this evidence over to me immediately because of the mental and emotional state that I was in.
Your attorney didn't?
He didn't.
At this point, we've been running coffee combos for a year and a half. So you're on to other business ventures, but you're in constant contact with your attorney. You don't understand why your brother is doing this to you. Has Chase publicly denied or alluded to this not existing or this not happening?
Everybody that has been involved has publicly denied that it never existed and there were never any conversations.
But you
about
have-
it.
I think they publicly denied, and I could be wrong, that they ever tried to get it, that they had it. I think I could be wrong, but I think they were just saying like, yeah, there was talk of it. We don't know for sure if it exists. We never tried to get it. Thank you, Marsha. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you.
I'm looking at the screenshots. So it exists. And then Robbie went on the record and did an official affidavit with a statement. Is that correct?
Yeah. So just for context of the text messages, on April 9th of 2019, give me a call, my guy, money talk when you get back in town. He then says on April 10th, it's better that we talk in person. When can you meet up? Looks like it was a string of days that there were very short amount of text messages going back and forth. April 11th of 2019, what's up? Friday, April 12th, 2019, what up? April 13th, call me ASAP. Apparently Coachella was going on at this time and they were feeling faded.
How do you know that? See, she's making assumptions. Like Chase is reaching out to Robbie. How did she know he was even at Coachella? Maybe he was homesick. Oh yeah, it was Coachella's going on. They were there and they were faded. How do you know that though?
He then says to Robbie, hit me when you get back. Let's talk money. Want to link up tonight. Do you smash her? Any progress on what we discussed?
Okay, so at this point in the text messages, it is clear that they did in fact have a conversation about whatever the business opportunity was. And then Chase.
I don't know, but right now I'm like, do we know that he's asking if Robbie smashed his sister? If he is, that's gross. Ugh. Or maybe he's talking about somebody else. I don't objection, hearsay. Or is it possible he's talking about somebody else? I don't know.
When we say he,
Y'all know
it's
how guys are.
Chase asking Robbie, did you smash her? Meaning, did he have sex with you? Okay.
Just for context for everyone, this is spanning from April 9th, 2019, all the way to May 20th, 2019.
So over a month, like
Yes.
roughly 6 weeks of Chase reaching out to Robbie to discuss this business opportunity that we eventually learned was for him to buy nudes of you from Robbie. But then
Yes.
publicly denies that this has ever happened.
I want to hear
Correct.
those texts.
Does Chase know that there is an affidavit by
No
Robbie?
one knows outside of my attorney because that's where it was turned over to.
Did you and Robbie ever have conversations about why he was willing to share this information and do an affidavit?
He said despite the fact that we weren't a thing anymore and had gone our separate ways, that he saw the struggle of what I was dealing with in the media once TMZ had gotten a copy of that police report that I had just filed for informational purposes only because I was instructed by my counsel to do so. When he saw that the sex tape made world news, he reached out to let me know, like, hey, this is also going on.
So he essentially was just being a good person and wanted you to know, and did, in my opinion, did the right thing by doing this.
In the same time frame, there was also a tweet
I think she said first it was 10K, then 15.
that was tweeted by Chase that said, blood is deadly. Don't be jealous because you don't have shit going on and never will. You have to stoop so low to sell fake stories about your family. You joke of a human being. I pity you and your pathetic excuse of a life. You are one of the most treacherous human beings God has ever blew breath in. You were given the world and you shit on it because you hate yourself deep down inside. But karma is a bitch. Revenge is completely a monster and I'm coming.
What?
I found that text too. Let me see. And this is kind of weird because it looks like a retweet almost. I'm not sure. Can somebody tell me what this is on X? April 10th, 2019. Blood is deadly. Don't be jealous because you don't have crap going on and never will. You have to stoop so low to sell fake stories about your family. You joke of human being. I pity you. And maybe that's like from his notes. I don't know, like he put his note. I don't know. You're one of the most treacherous human beings God has ever blew breath in. That's crazy. You were given the world and you crapped on it because you hate yourself deep down inside. But karma is a bitch. Revenge is a completely monster, and I'm coming. And then up here it says a wise man once said, the one with the golden rules. Well, you have nothing and have started a war that is unwinnable for you. What is this? Like, is this like a repost that he took from somebody else? Like, I'm confused by this. I don't know. Well, let's go back to the video.
Dog does he have in this fight? Where is this all coming from? This is all stemming from them blaming you for the indictment and the financial investigation. Like, why is Chase now involving himself? So now we have Savannah has tweeted.
That's what I thought too. Like, I was like, maybe they were trying to get it, and maybe it was to protect Lindsie to keep it from coming out. Because I found, okay, first off, Lindsie did file a report about this tape, and she said that the woman was trying to extort her with it. Let me see where, okay, hold on. Let me find it. I'll read it to y'all. So I'm like, well, heck, maybe they were like, well, let us buy it from her. Lindsie don't have to, and then we'll get rid of it. I don't know. Lindsie Chrisley knows best, accused woman of extortion in 2017 Brookhaven police report. Chrisley knows best star Todd Chrisley's oldest daughter, Lindsie, filed a lawsuit in 2017 in Brookhaven accusing a woman of trying to extort her over alleged sex tape, according to a police report, the AJC of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Lindsie reportedly cheated on her husband, Will Campbell, with two Bachelorette stars, Robbie Hayes and Atlanta's Josh Murray, according to a TMZ report. They separated in 2017 but reconciled in 2018. In the Brookhaven police report dated January 20th, 2017, Lindsie called the police to say A Mrs. Perry, first name not included, threatened her on January 22nd, 2017, with releasing a sexually compromising tape with Lindsie in it if Lindsie didn't meet with her. The alleged perpetrator never expressed her intentions and did not threaten any physical harm to the victim, the report said. Suspect did tell the victim that her and her boyfriend were out looking for her. She then told her if she did not meet her that she has a sexually compromising video of the victim and would release it to a tabloid. Lindsie told the police that this video may have occurred while she was visiting a friend in Brookhaven. The victim stated that the suspect never would state her intent if they did meet up or why she wanted to meet. Victim did tell me that the suspect did in the past hit a mutual friend of theirs. Okay, scary. Here's the statement I received from Brookhaven PD. Miss Lindsie Chrisley Campbell contacted the City of Brookhaven Police Department on 1/30/2017 in reference to a female threatening to release a sexually compromising video to the tabloids. Miss Campbell stated the female never stated her intentions or threatened physical violence during the physical harm during the conversation. The Criminal Investigation Division investigated the incident and identified 2 possible witnesses who never came forward to give a statement. The Criminal Investigation Division investigated the incident and identified 2 possible witnesses who never came forward to give a statement. Based on the lack of intent, witness testimony, and investigative leads, the case was moved to inactive on 5/1/2017. Since that time, we have not received any further leads to further work on this case. Sergeant Jake Kissel. Lindsay's attorney, Musa somebody, says she filed this particular case in what she deemed the wrong jurisdiction, but has now been investigated by the feds. This particular so-called sex tape, he said, is the same one hung over her head when she claimed he was trying to extort her. He said she is just frustrated how slow the case is. Who is he? Hold on. This particular so-called sex tape, he said, is the same one hung over her head when she claimed she was trying to extort her. He says she's just frustrated at how slow the case is moving, and it seems like the feds are more interested in just trying to get their unpaid taxes than dealing with this situation. Okay, maybe that was in reference to her parents. So she's already claimed that this woman was trying to extort her. So I don't know. I mean, there was a moment where I thought maybe they were trying to buy it to get it off the streets, to shut the woman up and to be like, you know what, give it to us, we'll destroy it, and then we don't have to worry about it being out there. I don't know.
Dad has tweeted. Now your brother has tweeted. Why? Why is this the way they're choosing to handle this?
What I've pieced together is my dad would have had knowledge of the tape from me filing the police report when I was still filming for Chrisley Knows Best. Chase was the only other member of the family that was acting on the show that had connections to the same people that I had connections to. So he visited the same places and bars that went to. He had direct contact with Robbie. And so that's the only reason why I can just assume that he would be involved. I don't know.
Because just to tweet something so vile like that and so what feels like out of left field, what would be the purpose for him to villainize you as well? Like, what is the purpose here? They all want a scapegoat to, you made up this whole financial investigation to get back at your parents. Like, that's essentially what everybody's saying. Mm-hmm. What was it like for you in real time to receive tweets like this from your sibling?
I just remember, again, I was in a bad place in my marriage and we were trying to figure that out and raising a little boy, and just knowing that they had such public pull and they were all still on the show. It made me feel like I was voiceless, and knowing that I would log on Twitter or I would log on Instagram and know that I was subjecting myself each and every day to things that were being tweeted that there was nothing that I could do about. Would I have liked something to have legally been done about it? Yes, not necessarily for them to get in trouble. That wasn't the intention, but just to stop. Mm-hmm. I think I just wanted it to stop. Like, I'm not doing any, like, just leave me alone. And it just kept continuing on and on. Robbie had provided the affidavit. It appears on August 21st of 2019. And it reads, this was directly sent to my attorney. Chase Chrisley initially contacted me on April 9th, 2019 about a money-making opportunity. He wanted to speak to me about conversations that when I texted him asking what's up warranted a private phone call conversation instead of simply telling me about the opportunity via text. This back and forth went on about a month, as you can see in the text, where we could not find a time to catch each other regarding the opportunity. Then on May 18th, 2019, we were finally able to get in contact to discuss this opportunity.
Right,
The
Trinity.
communication, opportunity, details, and request was via FaceTime. He went on to ask me in this conversation if I had any nude or incriminating photos of his sister, Lindsie Chrisley. He went on to say, in an almost begging type manner, he would pay me $10,000 for the images, but never why he needed them. However, I had a pretty good idea of why he wanted them. If you have to ask for a nude picture of your sister, nothing good. Eventually realizing he needed this so bad, he bumped his payment for the images up to $15,000. I went through the motions and played along as I would help, full well knowing that Lindsie has never sent me photos as such. In my opinion, she wouldn't send these to anyone, so I would just let this fizzle out. Then I got word that he may have purchased the tape that apparently...
It's weird to like, if you don't have any pictures, that's weird. Somebody's like, hey, I can give you 10 grand for some pictures of my sister. Do you have any? But what do you say in the moment? Oh, they're in an old phone. Let me see if I can still find them. He's like, no, I didn't have any, but I just played along and, let it fizzle out. How do you play along for that? You say yes or no? Or, I don't know, maybe. Let me check an old phone. You know what I'm saying?
Exists between Lindsie and I, and it all made sense. He had been looking for this leverage through private content of his sister and attempting to use me as a possible outlet to obtain this. Shot himself in the foot when he found what he has now, the tape, which I just happen to be involved with. Let me know if you need anything else from me at this time, or if I should be getting a legal team in place in case something gets released. Cheers, Robbie Hayes.
I'm assuming that Chase thought that Robbie would never come forward about any of that. Are you nervous about that?
No, because those weren't my words. I was just the recipient of the behavior. So for those reasons alone, I can rest easy.
At this point,
So once again, this is, I would love to see that report or that statement that Robbie gave her lawyer, because I did find an article where Robbie Hayes spoke about this August 22nd, 2019. So this is the day after he allegedly sent the police report, the day after he allegedly gave this information to Lindsay's lawyer. He spoke to People magazine, and this is what he said. This is the article. The Bachelorette Robbie Hayes says alleged Mex tape with Lindsie Chrisley was an accident. Lindsie Chrisley accused her father of attempted extortion over the alleged tape. Robbie Hayes is breaking his silence on the alleged tape with Lindsie Chrisley. Robbie said on a podcast that he and Lindsie didn't set out to record their intimate moment, but instead were accidentally caught on camera. We didn't make a blank tape, the Bachelorette said on Housewives and Vanderpump podcast on Wednesday. I'm not sitting here with a camera aimed down and trying to get the angles. We got caught up on the security camera, basically. It was a puppy cam in her friend's living room, the couch we crashed on. Hayes said he had been in contact with Lindsie to try to figure out the next steps to ensure that the footage did not get released. We're in the middle of dealing with it. I was just talking with Lindsie this past weekend in Atlanta 2 days ago. On August 13th, Lindsay's father, Todd Chrisley, and his wife Julie were indicted by federal grand jury for tax evasion and other financial crimes, which the couple denied. Shortly after that, Lindsie accused her father and brother, Chase Chrisley, of threatening to release the tape involving her. In a Georgia police report filed July 16th, Lindsie asserted that Todd and Chase wanted her to lie about an incident, and if she refused to do so, they were going to release the tape involving her. She said in the report that she learned her brother claimed to have purchased the tape and also stated that there was an ongoing issue with her family threatening and harassing her. In a statement to People last week, Chase denied Lindsay's allegations and said, I love my sister. I don't understand why she's doing this to our family. Not only am I heartbroken over these false allegations by my sister, and they are totally false, but so are my parents and the rest of our family. Todd also denied Lindsay's extortion claims and alleged that she had been intimately involved with another former Bachelorette contestant, Josh Murray. It's heartbreaking and shameful that these kind of accusations have to be aired in the public. We have tried to keep Lindsay's extramarital relationship with Robbie Hayes and Josh Murray private for her sake since August of 2016. Sadly, for reasons we can only guess at, she ran to the sheriff's office to accuse her brother of trying to buy a blank tape of her and Robbie, which was a complete lie. And now she's telling more lies about me, Todd continued. Although our hearts are broken, Lindsie is our daughter and we will always love her. In response to Todd's claims that Lindsie engaged in 2 extramarital affairs and appeared in a blank tape, Her attorney, Musa, neither confirmed nor denied the existence of a tape. The lawyer said in a statement to People, Lindsie would like nothing more than to be left alone and go about her own business. Unfortunately, certain members of her family will not let her live in peace. We are flabbergasted at the audacity of Todd and Chase Chrisley, who are more focused on attacking my client rather than defending themselves against the allegations of criminal conduct. Lindsie prays for a just outcome so that she can move forward with her life, safe from those who are looking to do her harm.
When those text messages and Robbie submits his affidavit, what is the relationship with all your family? Are you having communications with Todd?
No,
Julie?
no,
Savannah?
no,
Chase?
No.
Grayson?
none.
None of them. What
No.
about Nanny Faye?
I was not even communicating with Nanny at that time.
Okay. So at this point, they're just instigating
Mhm.
and trying to get photos of you for whatever reasons they may have. But you have no communications with any of them at this point.
No, I believe
And they had no communications with her either. But it doesn't mean that she wasn't using content creators to go after them and they weren't saying things publicly. Just because they weren't talking to each other doesn't mean they weren't at fault and stirring up conflict and confrontation.
and people I'm sure will correct me if I'm wrong. Robbie lived in California in Venice Beach at this time. I believe that Chase and Savannah were filming for Growing Up Chrisley in California with Nanny at that time as well.
So by June, early June 2019, your brother Kyle, are you in communications with him?
No, not really.
But nothing happened. It was just by,
Yeah, nothing happened. Kyle went through a divorce and ended up moving outside of Nashville. He's remarried now. She has children and, our lives just he was no longer my UPS driver. We didn't live next to each other anymore. The relationship was already somewhat surface. And so we weren't really in communication.
but there wasn't any bad blood that you can think of?
No, I mean, it was
Just life?
Yeah.
Okay. But by early June 2019, Kyle and Nanny Faye come to Atlanta to meet up with you.
Yes.
What did you think that meeting was for?
I personally thought the meeting was for maybe my dad was going to apologize to me for the things that had taken place that also other members of the family had brought themselves into. I mean, at this point, they're adults, so they had choices. I believe that my initial thoughts were that could be the case. However, once I met Nanny and Kyle at the Dunkin' Donuts near my house, after the request of me meeting them, I quickly realized that wasn't going to be the case.
He wasn't going to apologize.
No, I wasn't quite sure what was going to take place. I could have never imagined what actually did take place, but I didn't necessarily know that it was going to be an apology, maybe an explanation of what was going on. It made sense to me. Outside of that, I didn't really have a gauge either way.
And at this point in June of 2019, did you know where the investigation was for your parents' financial situation?
No.
So you're sort of in the dark. Whatever's in the mainstream media is all you know.
Yes.
Okay. So when you guys meet at the Dunkin' Donuts, your nanny mentions that the family attorney for the Chrisleys had received a pre-indictment letter.
Mhm.
And Kyle asked you if you would talk to your dad.
Yes.
What was your answer to that?
I initially was hesitant because I had not talked to him in years. So I left the show and moved on with my life. I didn't really know anything that was going on in their personal life. They didn't know anything that was going on in my personal life. And I think sometimes when you go through hard things with people, whether it be like a relationship with a significant other that's now broken or a family relationship that's now broken, it's kind of like, okay, not that I healed from it, but I somewhat had healed in a way to be able to exist.
Sure.
And I was hesitant to reopen that door. Went against my better judgment, I can now say. And I do feel like it came out of the goodness of my heart because I loved my dad. Like that is my dad. And if he was in trouble and he wanted to meet with me, I was willing to honor meeting with him. But I never imagined that meeting would cause what it caused.
When you say that, what do you mean?
I talked to him on a phone that Kyle had. I don't know if it was Kyle's personal cell phone. I don't know if it was a burner. I really don't know. My dad did not have contact with me over my cell phone for years. I don't even know. Maybe I changed my number at that time. I have no idea. He asked me if I could meet him. And at first I was hesitant to even get on the phone. But when I did, he does have a pull over me. And I'm going to acknowledge that. He is my dad.
You want to get along with him. You want to have a real father-daughter
I
relationship.
don't know if I believe that he has a pull on her, considering like the way that she just dipped out on him when she was like 19 years old. Or maybe she feels like he does, and that's why she feel like she couldn't face him and say, "Hey, Dad, I'm leaving. I'm moving out. When whenever you're not mad at me anymore, hit me up in 2 weeks. Hit me up in a few days. We'll talk about it. I love you. Peace out." The fact that she literally just dipped, she left the keys to the condo on the counter, the keys to the car sitting there, and left and changed her number and didn't speak to her dad, her mom, her siblings for 3 years. That's just mind blowing to me. Like, I don't understand it.
And I think it's the desire of most children, to want to have a relationship with what you came from.
Mhm.
And so immediately when I heard his voice, I was like, yes, I will come and meet you halfway, and halfway for me and halfway for him is in Chattanooga. So I agreed to do that, but never did I imagine the conversation that took place would literally implode my whole world. I came back home and had to discuss with Will the context of the conversation. And that was not easy because the context of the conversation would have been from a time when Will and I were separated and I had a relationship with someone else, and so to bring that back into your home when you're trying to heal, that's really hard. But I knew that I needed to tell Will that information. And through the conversation with Will, he said, maybe you should contact your attorney. There's no tape, right? And I said, I've never consented to a tape ever.
But you don't know if one existed.
Right. My attorney advised me to just file the informational report in my county just so that we have a record of it. Because if anything did come out, I didn't want to look like I was chasing my tail, like, oh, well, this happened in June and maybe now it's come out in August and now I'm just now reporting that conversation happened. Like, that was my attorney's point. Like, at least just get it on record that this happened. We're not trying to get anybody in trouble.
You're talking about record of the conversation with your dad?
Yes.
Okay. I thought you meant of the record of the sex tape. So we're talking about your attorney is advising you to put an informational report together about the conversation you had with your dad.
Yes. And the context of the conversation with.
Okay, so then she's shocked later when her dad's like, "Are you wearing a wire?" But she literally admits conversations she had with her dad. Her attorney advised her to like file reports on it. Am I understanding that correctly? Like, conversation she had with her dad, her attorney's like, "Yeah, just go ahead and file an informational report. Don't do anything about it. Just, let there be a report on file that it happened." Girl, you are literally conversations. You are making reports on conversations that you have with your father, and then your feelings are hurt when he asks if you're wearing a wire?
My dad involved the tape.
Okay, I'm tracking. So you go to Chattanooga and you meet with Todd at Sugar's Room Shack? Like, that doesn't seem like a place Todd would like very much.
That's actually a place that he really loves.
Oh,
I
stand corrected.
also really love it. Of course, it had been years, so I was driving a car that he wasn't familiar with, and I get out of the car, and it's kind of like, the best way I can describe it is when your kid's been awake for a little while, and you're just like so ready to embrace them. I felt that in my soul. But I was asked if I was wearing a wire and to lift my shirt. And then I was asked to leave my phone in the car, which is fine. I wasn't there with the intent to harm him or set him up. I would never wear a wire for the federal government. He was the one that asked me to meet him. Where would I get the wire from? Did I just
No, I'll just turn around and go file a report about whatever we said.
randomly meet the FBI and they wired me? So we walk in and we sit down.
Before you continue, I just want to say this, and I hope that y'all leave this in, but like, if Todd or Savannah, Julie, Chase, any of y'all watch this, like, the heartbreak of like hearing you say like you were ready to hug your dad and he was asking, like, you guys went with two different mindsets, and it's really heartbreaking because I know what that's like. You just wanted to hug your dad, not.
And just it doesn't have to be like this. It's all because of TV. It's all because of public perception. I don't understand. Like, I was so hesitant to even get on the phone.
I do like the sweater, but this is not about TV. The first estrangement was due to you want to live, that party in college life, live with your boyfriend. Your dad didn't approve of it, so you moved out and you become estranged from him. That had nothing to do with TV. I am noticing all the edits. I absolutely am, Marsha. The second estrangement and you quitting the show, had to do with you waking Chloe up after she went to bed and to film for a brand deal. And then when Julie was like, "What are you doing, Lindsie? What, like, why did you wake her up?" Like, "No, Chloe, go back to bed. Lindsie, you can't do that. Why didn't you film this earlier today? Why wait till she's already in bed? She's got school tomorrow. Like, what are you doing? Shut up. She even said, Todd, get your BITCH. That's what she told Todd. When this happened and Todd come walking in, she told Todd, you need to get your BITCH. So where does TV really play into this? Except if you believe what Todd said. Todd said on his podcast that one of the big reasons Lindsie got so mad is because she wasn't wanting to share much of her life on the show. Like, she didn't want to talk about her divorce on the show or anything like that. She's got demanding about Jackson needing a nanny and stuff like that. And then production got tired of having to fly her in, pay for her and Jackson's flights, put them in a hotel when she didn't even want to share anything. So they was like, we're going to bump her back. She's not going to be a main cast member. We're not going to fly her out every time we're filming. We're not going to fly her and Jackson out every time we're filming. We're not going to pay for a hotel every time we're filming. And then she don't even want to share anything. So she's going to go back to almost like would be like a friend of the family that just, that comes in every once in a while. This was Todd and Julie's side of it that they talked about on Coffee Combos. And what did she just say? All over a show. Hold on. Well, the story that you've told us in the past 2 segments of this, the past 2 episodes, has nothing to do with the show. You're claiming you didn't want to live by Todd's rules during college. That led to the first estrangement. The second estrangement led to a confrontation between you and Julie. And that's why you didn't want to do the show anymore, because the confrontation between you and her, and you wanted you and Todd to go to therapy together. You wanted it to be filmed, and you wanted no editing done, and you wanted everybody to take accountability for what they did. La di da di da. Todd refused to do it. You were going to walk away from the show, allegedly. But Todd's story is she didn't want to share anything. She didn't want to cover her divorce. She wanted to keep things hidden. So production did not want to keep her on as a main cast member and keep spending thousands of dollars flying her out and Jackson out when she didn't want to share anything. She wasn't bringing anything to the table, and she got mad about that. When they told her, we're not going to fly you out to film anymore, except for maybe big events, like a birthday party or something like that, then we'll fly you out. She got frustrated. And she went to Todd and threw a fit and told him, you need to do something, like fix this. Like, and Todd was like, I can't. Like, I mean, all I can do is ask, but you're not really sharing anything. So I can't force the production to do anything. I can't force, it's not his, it's his show, but it's not his show at the end of the day. Todd, now that makes way more sense. For Lindsie to say it's all over TV, but yeah, it makes sense if you believe Todd's story. It don't make sense if you believe what she just told us about why all the estrangements happened. True, Marsha, she's holding a 3-ring binder, but she never showed anything. So I'm like, I want to see something. I'm not saying Todd and Julie or Savannah or Chase are innocent in this. They definitely did some things too that I don't agree with and shouldn't have been done. But I've heard, oh, thank you, Marsha, for becoming a member. I appreciate you so much. Everybody, welcome Marsha as a member. But after, watching everything go down in real time, because I was on YouTube already and I was covering all of this. After knowing that she was using a content creator to attack her parents, I definitely know her hands are not clean.
Because I was afraid to reopen the door because I know the pull that he has on me. And we can get into it at a later time in the episode. But I mean, so much has a pull on me that I wanted to back out of doing this because of his podcast episode, just because he said, I love her and she's my daughter. And it's like, if I can do that for you, why would you do what you've done to me? I don't know what your family thinks that how much information could you really have had to do this?
I think that's where a lot of people get lost in the sauce with the narratives that have been spun, right? Like, this was a financial case. I have never had, and have always said, I have never had knowledge of my parents' finances. Why would I have knowledge of their tax filings? Why would I have knowledge of bank documents of loans?
And further, if you did, they would have to.
Okay, remember this. Why would I have knowledge of like any of their bank stuff? In a minute, she's going to say that she had like documents from when Nanny Faye was put on the bank account. So let's listen.
To be verified for authenticity.
Correct.
But where would you have gotten them?
Nowhere. There's nowhere for me to have gotten them or to have had knowledge of any of that stuff.
So when you meet with your dad in Chattanooga at Sugar's Rib Shack, and the first thing he says is, are you wearing a wire? Lift up your shirt, put your phone in your car.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you were taken aback a little bit, but then what happens?
But I also wanted to honor it because I personally felt like we're all very prideful people
Mhm.
and egos are involved and estrangement is involved. I personally felt like my dad would have never reached out unless it was truly like in a time of need. And so I wanted to honor, yes, I'm not wearing a wire and like I can prove it. And if you don't want my phone to go in, like that's okay. It can stay in my car. Like I'm not here to hurt you. And you were the one who asked for this meeting, not me. I didn't reach out to you. I haven't reached out to you in years. And so going into that, I feel like our mindsets were completely different. Once I got inside and we sat down and of course it was like, a little bit of small talk. You haven't talked to your dad in years. It's kind of like, oh, how's chat? Those types of things. And then he pretty much abruptly tells me I'm going to be indicted for various financial crimes and it's not true. And he starts telling me a story as if like that's the narrative, right? You have met Josh Waits with the Georgia Department of Revenue at Starbucks multiple times and had an affair with him.
He's telling you this?
Yeah, like as like narrating that.
As if you're going to say, okay, I'm on board.
Yeah. And I said, no, that's not true. And he said, no, you met him at Starbucks and you multiple times and you were having an affair with a federal official.
Was this his way of giving you a heads up of what his narrative was going to be?
I believe so. I don't think I thought that in the moment. I think looking back on it now, I believe that might have been the narrative that was ran with had I been on board. But I said, that's not true.
So later she's going to say that like her dad and Chase had her followed or whatever. Todd has said that he has evidence that she met with Josh Waits. He has evidence. And by this point, they're about to be indicted. So he's also been told by Kyle that, I think he's already been told by Kyle that Kyle and Savannah like spoke with the FBI. So maybe that's why he was having her followed to see, is she really, like this is my daughter, is she really meeting up with the man that's trying to put me in prison? Not just me, but like Julie as well, is trying to take us from our other kids, our younger siblings. We raised Chloe. Like, is she really doing that? Maybe if he did hire a private eye to follow her, then maybe it was to see if that was really happening. But he has stated on his podcast he has evidence that she met up with Josh Waits.
I've never met that person. Yes. Have there been, a phone conversation or text exchange with that person? Yes. But have I ever met that person? No, I couldn't pick him out from anybody in this restaurant if he walked in here.
So you just knew who he was, but you never met him face to face?
I never met him face to face. I don't even know what he looks like other than what the media has like put photos out of. Like I had never at that time, nothing had come out about him. So I didn't know what he even looked like.
I don't even know what to say about that.
So then at that point when I objected that and said, no, I've never met that person. He said he went into the sex tape thing and said that Chase had the tape.
Mind you, she also admits that Josh Waits told her, yeah, there's like a punching bag in my office with your dad's face on it. Ha ha ha. Or a dartboard or whatever. Like I said earlier, for an FBI investigator to be kicking it up with you and sharing that kind of info and not being professional, obviously they were friends. Obviously he had gotten to a level where he felt comfortable enough with her to tell her that.
On a hard drive and that I should be careful.
Okay. So just for clarity purposes, is it just you and Todd in this restaurant?
Well, I mean, other patrons.
Together.
Oh, yeah.
So you no Nanny Faye, no Chase, no Savannah, no Julie, nobody. So the two of you are the only people that know what happened at this table.
Yes.
He's telling you essentially what the story is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then
he said that they needed a bigger story.
So Your dad is telling you, walking you through the narrative, and you're saying you don't know who this person is. You did not have an affair with him. And he then tells you, but Chase has this sex tape. And he's essentially warning you that Chase has this sex tape. And if you don't go along with this story,
just be aware that he has the tape and it's on a hard drive. Oh, yeah.
So where did Chase then get the puppy cam? Did Todd tell you where Chase got the puppy cam?
From for $5,000. And following that, the narrative has always been like,
Listen to this.
we didn't do that.
She says that Chase got the tape from the woman for $5,000, but later she's going to read text messages where Todd, they're talking about how the woman claims she lost it. Well, if Todd's already told her, how much sense does this make? Todd told Lindsie, we have the tape. We bought it for $5,000. It's on a hard drive. Then why would he be talking later about, yeah, the girl is crazy. She says she lost the tape. I mean, I guess unless maybe she had copies. Todd also says this has nothing to do with Chase. Well, if he's already told you, then why all of a sudden would he claim that the girl claims she lost the tape and that the girl's crazy, she's a horrible person, and that it has nothing to do with Chase? I don't know. Some of the things you're saying adding up to me.
This, we weren't aware of any of this. We've never had a conversation of this. I have text message screenshots at the top where it starts. It says, this is all besides the point. Chase has no place in it, period. He responds, and when
Chase has no place in it, period. But he's already told you that he has the tape? I don't know.
I say he, my dad, responds and says, no, he doesn't, but she's lying about her involvement and how
She admits, no, he doesn't. She admits, no, he doesn't.
she lost the video.
But she's lying about her involvement and how she lost the video. That don't even make sense. If Todd claims they bought the video, Chase has it, then how does these text messages make sense? Chase has no involvement. No, he doesn't. But she's lying about her involvement and how she lost the video. Well, she didn't lose it, right? You just said she didn't lose it, that she sold it to Chase. Lindsie said that. I think.
And following that, the narrative has always been like, we didn't do this. We weren't aware of any of this. We've never had a conversation of this. I have text message screenshots at the top where it starts. It says, this is all besides the point. Chase has no place in it.
This is all beside the point. Chase has no place in it.
Period. He responds.
I think that's Todd. No, that's her. That's her. Because she said he responds. So she says, this is all besides the point. Chase has no place in it. So she's the one saying Chase has no place in it. He's saying.
And when I say he, my dad responds and says, no, he doesn't, but she's lying about her involvement and how she lost the video.
Okay, that makes it a little bit different.
Get 30 protein sticks.
That does make the meaning a little bit different. Like, she's saying Chase has no place in it as, okay, so if he bought the tape, she's saying, this is none of his business. He has no place in this. He shouldn't be doing it. So that does make more sense, for sure. And he said, no, he doesn't. This isn't his place. But she's lying about her involvement and saying how she lost the video. But if she lost the video, I thought y'all bought it.
Claims that she lost the video.
Screenshots at the top where it starts. It says, this is all besides the point. Chase has no place in it, period. He responds. And when I say he, my dad responds and says, no, he doesn't, but she's lying about her involvement and how she lost the video.
This is text messages between who?
Me and my dad.
So your dad is telling you that claims that she lost the video.
Yeah. He says, no, he doesn't. Talking about Chase doesn't have a place in it, but she's lying about her involvement and how she lost the video. And he puts in quotes, like, lost the video. Okay. So I respond back and say, I don't give a fuck if it does exist. It hurts others more than it hurts me. They can be felons, not my business. He said, no, it hurts you, because I can't imagine that you would work to be proud of that being out here for the world to see, and if your son and husband to see. It should have never been taped, and certainly I nor anyone else should ever heard about it. She is trash, and so is Robbie. I said, and so is your son. So stop blaming everyone but Chase. He said, and again, you obviously refuse to read what I wrote above. I said, no, it hurts you, because I can't imagine that you would work and be proud of that being out here for the world to see and your son and husband to see. It should have never been taped, and certainly I nor anyone else should have ever heard about it. She is trash, and so is Robbie.
Robbie's not trash. He didn't know about it either. He didn't consent to it. And he's saying what she was doing was wrong.
I said,
I think Todd is saying Robbie's trash because Robbie slept with a married woman.
Chase's huge involvement. If you don't believe me, I'll go to Brookhaven this week and tell them I want charges taken out for what they currently have. And if he didn't do it, then maybe someone shouldn't be giving statements that he did. He said, then you should do that. I want to see his involvement. Then he says, well, this girl isn't your friend today or ever. I said, I'm not concerned with her. He said, you meant $5,000 to her, but how is Chase involved in this? I said, and who does Chase think he is to even offer $5,000 for stuff like that is attempt to blackmail. He wasn't party to it and it's none of his business. He responds and says, she offered it to him. I have the screenshots and she no longer has the video. If she says anything other than that, then she's a lie. I said, he came up to her at a bar in person and offered to buy it. He said, that's her tale. I sit on mine. You should ask her where the tape is and not tell you that she lost it and doesn't have it anymore.
I don't understand why Chase is involved. None of it makes sense to me. And I'll say it again, like I would love to sit down and talk to Todd because I can't understand the logic behind any of this. So at this point, you're with your dad and then he calls you after the meeting at the restaurant, at the Rib Shack. And he asks you if you have any records of being at the bank when you ran into Julie and Nanny Faye years prior.
Yes. Years.
Why would you have bank records for that?
I did have it.
But why would he even?
See, earlier when Cal's like, what, or when Lindsay's like, I wouldn't have any information about their business or, their finances. She literally just admitted, listen to this. She literally said earlier, I wouldn't know nothing about their business, their finances. I wouldn't know anything about that. So what could I tell them? Listen to this. I might have backed
He
it
said,
up
that's her
before.
tale. I sit on mine. You should ask her where the tape is and not tell you that she lost it and doesn't have it anymore.
I don't understand why Chase is involved. None of it makes sense to me. And I'll say it again, like I would love to sit down and talk to Todd because I can't understand the logic behind any of this. So at this point, you're with your dad and then he calls you after the meeting at the restaurant, at the Rib Shack. And he asks you if you have any records of being at the bank when you ran into Julie and Nanny Faye years prior.
Yes. Years.
Why would you have bank records for that?
I did have it.
Why would you have bank records for that?
But why would he even ask?
It was said that Nanny could potentially also be in trouble. So I think they were trying to just prove that I was there at the bank at the same time. And Nanny had told me and Julie had told me that she was just being added as a signer to their account. I guess the speculation was that they were trying to put Nanny's name on it so that they could protect the funds that were in that account at that time.
So what would you being in the same place at the same time have to do with anything? Just as a witness on?
As a witness. Yeah.
Prosecution's witness or defense's witness?
Defense's witness.
Okay. So you tell him that you would check your records and you had them.
And I had them and I provided them.
And what was the result of all of that?
I just
provided them. And it didn't make or break the case at all?
I don't want to say yes or no because that wasn't what the whole case was about. But I think as far as Nanny's involvement was concerned, I think that it was a clear way to put a witness in the bank outside of those two.
Okay. So all of that transpired in early June of 2019. By the end of June 2019, there are texts between you and your dad threatening you with the sex tape. By July, you file a report with Cherokee County Sheriff's Office regarding the threats about the sex tape and subsequently move these communications to the FBI because Cherokee County Sheriff notifies you that they couldn't help you.
How it was explained to me was when I filed the initial report with Cherokee County, they asked for all of the people that could have been involved. It went from an informational report and they actually sent it to their investigators. Their investigators reached out to me. I went and met with said investigators and they asked for the other parties and contact information. They then started contacting the other parties that were involved. Had originally agreed when the investigators reached out to her to meet the following day to do an interview with them. The next day, when she was supposed to meet them, she had lawyered up and had an attorney contact that investigator saying that she would not do an interview. They had contacted my dad and Chase. I don't know what the conversations were with them, but then shortly after that, I was advised to file with or to contact the number for the FBI. It was the FBI hotline, like whatever the national FBI hotline. So I did that, gave them the information about the police report in my county. I had been warned by law enforcement. The FBI doesn't respond to a lot of things. So like you might call and give this information and they don't always follow up. So it was days after that I
How you know that, girl? I didn't know that. How you know that you got to call several times or you got to call and they'll call you back in a few days? I had no idea.
get a call back from, well, it's like a no caller ID call. and it was local FBI for the Northern District of Georgia, which was also the same jurisdiction federally that my parents were indicted. So I did not know anything about the FBI. If it's just like they have offices and they talk to you over the phone. I didn't know they had like local branches. I was unaware at that time that those would have been the same FBI agents that would have been investigating for the U.S. Attorney's Office, which ultimately led to the indictment.
Do you think you got a call back because your parents were already under investigation and about to be indicted?
Yes.
And because this other scenario named them, they are now interested in this?
Yes.
Okay. With that being said, is it safe to say that yes, you talked to the FBI, but not regarding your parents' financial crimes?
Correct.
So
when they asked him meet me, they asked me to just bring evidence of what I was reporting. They never asked me to bring any type of evidence, never even mentioned my parents' federal case at all.
okay.
But he did talk about how he got that punching bag or whatever.
Not until I got there did they ask me if I was aware of anything, and I said no.
So did you explain this to your dad and to Julie?
Yes. I'm going to backtrack on that. There's been very few conversations that I have had with Julie since leaving Chrisley Knows Best. Yes, when we started talking to each other again, obviously she was there and a participant, and it was cordial. She's never gone out of her way to intentionally harm me or anything like that. There weren't conversations like that I was having with her.
Okay.
Anytime those conversations were transpiring, it was directly me and my dad.
And you have told your dad, like, these were my conversations, these were my communications with the FBI, and none of them involve you.
Yes.
Essentially. About a month later, in August of 2019, the federal indictment for the Chrisleys is filed, and there's a warrant issued for Todd's arrest. Had you had conversations with your dad surrounding this at any point?
No. And I think that's a little misleading that there was a warrant issued for his arrest, which would happen with anybody being federally indicted, but he self-surrendered and turned himself in to the U.S. Marshal's office in the Northern District of Georgia.
Okay, so there's an email forwarded from the Department of Justice from Lindsie's attorney, from your attorney, about the sex tape filing. About a month later, September 2019, your official statement about the baseless claims that you were involved in your parents' tax, civil, and criminal cases. That's the first time you publicly say that you had nothing to do with this?
Yes.
Okay. And did your parents react to that?
I had spoken on the sex tape stuff prior in the media. I also believe that my Dr. Phil interview was also prior to that as well.
Okay.
So I'd spoke on it there. This was a press release by my counsel saying, once again, Lindsie's so grateful for your support during this very difficult time. Despite the fact that Lindsie has nothing to do with Mr. and Ms. Chrisley's civil or criminal tax matters, it seems that they have made her the main focus of their attention in order to distract from their own wrongdoing. As you can see from the episode of Dr. Phil, which airs today, we have known about the allegations in the Chrisley's lawsuit for some time now. They come as no surprise. We were aware somehow Lindsie, who is repeatedly denied any knowledge of her father's crimes, would once again be dragged back into this unfortunate situation. We wish that Todd and Julie would focus on their upcoming federal criminal trial rather than using their daughter to deflect attention away from their sad situation. Hopefully today's Dr. Phil episode and the statement will help shed light on what Lindsie has been enduring over the last few years. Lindsie's strength comes from the love and support of her husband, Will, son, Jackson, Christian Faith, and all her beloved fans and friends. We wish to remain distant from the situation and Lindsie's parents find themselves in. If Mr. Chrisley has truly forgiven his daughter and truly loves her as he says, we hope that he will no longer involve her in his litigation, no longer attempt to actually procure new photos and videos of her, and no longer threaten her with the humiliation and cyberbullying.
That's heavy. And your siblings are just on board to ride whatever Todd does at this point.
My dad always said there's power in numbers. And even from the first estrangement dating back to 2009, when I was estranged from him, I was told not to contact any family members, like meaning any family members in his home, which would have been.
She literally said on part one, am I crazy? I do try to give grace. Like if I misunderstand something, I'm like, okay, I misunderstood that, my bad, and I'll acknowledge, okay, well, that does make sense. But am I crazy? Didn't she say when she left the keys on the counter, changed her number, and didn't talk to them for years? Or did she not say that? She didn't say there was ever any. She didn't say, like, I only wanted to be estranged from my dad. I still wanted to have a relationship with Julie, my siblings, but they didn't allow that. She didn't say anything like that. And if that would have been the case, like if I would have left knowing, like, you know what, I'm just not going to talk to my dad because I know he's going to be mad at me. I know there's going to be an issue. So I'm not going to talk to my dad. I would say, so I left with the intent of, I changed my number and had no intentions of talking to my dad. But I did still want a relationship with my, my mom, my stepmom, adopted mom, whatever, my siblings. But unfortunately, I didn't get to have that because Ty told him not to talk to me. She only said she left the keys on the counter to the condo, her 2 cars, moved in with Will, and changed her number and didn't speak to them for years. So to me, it sounded like that was very much her decision. Because up until she moved out, Ty was paying for all her stuff. Had her a job, paying for her condo, paying her bills in her condo. Didn't seem like he had any issue other than just wanting her to follow some of his rules. But now all of a sudden she's saying, well, during that first estrangement, like I didn't want to be estranged from, Julie or my siblings, only my dad. But dad told them that. How does she know? Ty told them, like, how does she know? Maybe they assumed, well, you changed your, how are they supposed to reach out? She changed her number.
The 3 children and also Julie. And so this has been a long pattern of events of if I'm not in communication with you, you can't be in communication with anyone else. And if this is what I think, I'm going to make sure that they all think this too.
It's definitely easier to manipulate what people say and think when you're living in the same house. And well, Lindsay's over there and she doesn't have contact with any of us. This is why. And then you tell them one thing, they don't know to believe anything else. And at the time, 2009 through 2012, you were probably 20 years old. So, and what's the age gap between you and Chase and Savannah? Almost 10
7
years.
and 8 years.
Okay. So 7, 8, they were young.
How old did Kale say Lindsie was? Did she say 20? Kale was 22 in 2012, turned 23 September 2012. So she was 22, about to be 23.
And 17 years between me and Grayson.
So for as long as they can remember, you've been the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Based on what they were told or the little bits and pieces that they saw, you were the problem and they believe their dad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they probably
Julie raised you
They didn't understand why all of a sudden their sister just dipped out for no reason.
as one of her own children.
Mm-hmm.
What has it been like? What was it like for you before? What is it like for you now? Knowing that Julie never really involved herself in any of this, but she has silently stood by and she has, with her silence, co-signed all of these behaviors. How does that feel?
Wow.
It was really, really hard for me in college because she also legally adopted me. And that was the decision that I made for myself at 19. And I felt like that was the right thing to do because when you're in a blended family situation and she's there every day, even though I was 19, it felt like, oh, well, this piece of paper will make me feel like more a part. Like I will be more a part of this. And it feels like closure and it feels like I'm one of them.
I do think that was the issue is I think Lindsie did not feel like she fit in with the family. I feel like she felt like, because Savannah and Todd super close. Julie, it said that Julie and Chase were super close. So maybe she kind of felt like the odd one out. So she felt like, oh, if Julie adopts me, then I'll feel like I belong here. However, I don't think that's what happened. Not because Julie didn't make her feel like she was a part of the family. I think this was a Lindsie issue, not a Todd, Julie, or the rest of the family issue. I think they did love her as a full-blooded family member. I mean, she was Todd's full biological daughter. Julie adopted her, raised her from the time she was very little. So I do feel like they loved her as much as, I do feel like they looked at her as like part of the family. I felt like she didn't feel like part of the family. And I feel like that was a Lindsie thing, not a rest of the family thing. That's just my opinion. And because she felt like she didn't fit in like everybody else did, or that maybe they didn't love her as much as they loved the other kids, I feel like that played a part in the way that she felt about, Todd, Julie, Savannah, everybody.
Even though you were the first Chrisley child.
Yes. The estrangement through college was truly the hardest because I know that if the shoe was on the other foot and this was involving Savannah, I don't think she would have idly sat by. And two things can't be true. You can't say, I love
Savannah wouldn't have done that. You literally just jetted out for no reason. What were they supposed to do? You changed your number. Go follow you, show up at your house? beg you. I mean, I probably would have my daughter. I probably would have showed up where she was and been like, girl, what are you thinking?
Of these
They probably thought, oh, give her a month. She'll be back.
kids like the ones that I birthed, but then you're not talking to me because he's not talking to me. I just know as a parent,
Right,
if
Cheryl?
Jackson had done something and Will, for whatever reason, said, I'm not talking to him, so you don't talk to him. First of all, don't tell me what to do. That's my son and that's my decision. And so I think that that's what hurt the most is just the lack of advocating as a mother, because I don't believe that she would have done it to the daughter that she birthed.
What was your relationship like with your biological mom during all this time?
It's always been strained because I think a lot of times, and other people can maybe relate to this, the mindset of out of sight, out of mind. She lived across the country from us. And so I was being raised in a house where my dad was there and present every day, and Julie was there and present every day. And I didn't really reconnect with her until after Julie had legally adopted me. And I went through an identity crisis at that time because I felt like, my biological mom's been wiped away from my birth certificate. I made that decision and now I'm going through this estrangement and my dad's not talking to me. So vicariously through that, Julie's not talking to me. I still had my biological mom, although the relationship was strained and not a normal mother-daughter relationship. It made me feel like that I was questioning myself. Like, did I make the right decision? Because why is Julie not fighting for me? Like, you adopted me and we went through all of that and my wishes were honored. But now when the rubber hits the road and my dad and I are in another knockdown drag out, now I'm just ostracized. The love is conditional and the condition is based off of his allowance.
It was not
I think
conditional.
it's safe to say.
Maybe your love for them was conditional. Maybe, Lindsie, your love for them was conditional because you didn't want to live by Todd's rules after he gave you everything he could give you. A job where you could work around your college schedule, put you in a good school, raised you, tried to raise you in church, But because you didn't want to follow his rules, guess what? I'm out. Block your number. To me, it seems like Lindsay's love was conditional to them. How many times have they forgiven her, allowed her back into their lives for her to get mad about something else and then bam, I'm out. The situation with Chloe and the confrontation with Chloe, all because, she wants to do this promo and she wakes Chloe up and Julie's like, no, Chloe, go back to bed. Why didn't you do this earlier? No, you're not doing that. And her act, belligerent and talk crap to Julie and then call her a bitch. And then after that, leave the show and, become estranged from them again because she couldn't film this promo brand deal that she wanted to. You know what I'm saying? Because Julie said something to her. To me, it seems like Lindsay's love is conditional.
Every human on this planet just wants someone to fight for them. That's all we want.
I think that is such a fair statement. I also think it's very fair to say that kids who come from broken homes, and I say that lightly because I never have a memory of my parents being together, my biological parents. And so my experience with that is far less traumatizing than those that do have those memories of those parents, right? But both of my parents moved on so fast after the marriage that it was almost like it was collateral damage. I felt like collateral damage during that time because he's moving on and Julie's pregnant and they're having kids and my mom's moved on before my dad even moved on. And now she's got all these step kids and we're just kind of in the middle, and I always just wanted to feel a part somewhere.
You didn't feel like you were fully a part of this family over here with your dad and Julie, and you didn't feel like you really belonged over here with your mom and your stepdad. And eventually your mom goes on to have more kids. So you didn't really feel fully a part of either.
And I will say it, and it's not the nicest thing to say, but I've said it to both my biological parents. You moved on and you had redemption children.
Like if we can't have nuclear family over here, we'll turn around and go over here and do it. And anyone that's
we'll get this one right. And
whoever's not a part of this nuclear family right here will be essentially ostracized.
Well, Kayla, is that what you're doing? Kayla, is that what you're doing? I don't think parents think that. That is crazy. Oh, so we really want this nuclear family and, it didn't work out the first time. So gonna go meet another person, get married, have kids with them, and then the kids from the first marriage. No, we don't really like them that much. Kale, is that what you're doing? Would it be fair for people to put that on Kale? How would Kale feel if somebody accused her of doing that? Wow, Kale, you didn't make it with Joe. Y'all never got married. Then you got married to Javi, had kids, but then y'all got a divorce. Then you got with Chris. He didn't want you, had 2 kids with him. Then you got with Elijah. Is it Elijah? Eli, whatever his name is, had kids. He didn't want you. Now you've moved on to Isaac. So would it be fair to be like, okay, Kale, I mean, are you going to get your tubes reversed and have kids with him so you can have that nuclear family and all those other 87 kids are ostracized? Ostracized? You know what I'm saying? Like, that is so unfair. Nobody does that. Nobody thinks, oh, it didn't work out. Didn't have the nuclear family that I was wanting with her. So I'm going to go have that with Julie now. I'm going to have my kids, have my little family, and those 2 kids, meh. Nobody does that or thinks that way. Come on. And the fact that Kale, of all people, said that, like, how would you feel if people accused you of doing that, Kale? That's insanity.
Whether it was intentional or unintentional or conscious or subconscious.
I don't feel like they treated her any different. Like, if you watch the show, the episodes that she was on, Todd was definitely hard on Chase and Savannah. He was hard on them. He literally threw Chase's laptop in the pool. She has 7 kids. 7 kids. Chase was grounded from his laptop. He checks the computer because he literally controlled everything they did. He's super controlling for sure. Like, he could get on the computer, see where their cars were at because he had like a tracking device in their cars. He could check their messages to see who they were messaging. He could check their computers to see what they were looking up. So when they were filming one day, he looks up to see what everybody's looking on the computers. He sees that, oh, Chase is using his computer when he was supposed to be grounded. He goes in Chase's room, finds the computer, throws it in the water, throws it in the pool. One time, Chase asked to go to a football game. This is on the first episode. Chase asked to go to a football game. He says, no, you're not, because Chase wanted to go within an hour. He was like, no, Chase, what are the rules? If I want to go somewhere, I got to let you know in advance. Yeah, you cannot just ask me, an hour before you have to leave. You have to give me an advance to ask. I don't know what the deal is with that. I don't know if Todd wants to, hire security to go follow him. So he needs an advance. I don't know. But he said, no, you're not going to go to the football game. Well, Chase already had plans to go to the football game with Brielle from no, it's not 11. It's 7. But Brielle from her mom is, you guys know who I'm talking about. Anyways, he had already made plans to go. He was going to meet up with some of his friends, one of them being Brielle, and Savannah and Lindsie was like, why don't you call him and ask permission rather than just going? And he's like, he's not going to let me go. And they're like, well, just call and ask. So he's like, and Chase is like, if I call him and he tells me no, I'm going to be so mad at y'all. And they're like, just call and ask. So he calls and asks. He's like, hey, Dad, can I go to the football game? When is it? Tonight. Chase, what's the rules? Well, if I want to go somewhere, I have to let you know in advance. That's right, Chase. You can't let me know on a short notice, like an hour before you need to leave. So you can't go tonight. Well, what does Chase do? He goes to the football game anyways. Well, when Savannah comes home, because Chase, Savannah, and Lindsie went to the nail salon to get their nails done, and he got his feet done. So when Savannah gets back and Chase is not with her, he's like, where's your brother? She's like, I don't know. He left before I did, because Savannah was trying to cover for him. I don't know. He left before I did. And so he goes, he tracks the car, sees that the car's at the football game. So he doesn't go. He waits. Chase comes home, tries to sneak by. He's like, Chase, come in here. Sit down. What did I tell you? You told me I couldn't go to the football game. Why'd you go? Because I wanted to go to the football game. I already had plans to go. Anyways, Chase goes to bed. You want to know what happens the next morning when Chase wakes up and goes outside to see his car? He got a boot on his car, on the tire. He got a boot on the tire, and he got one of those steering wheel locks. And he wasn't allowed to use his car for a week. Julie had to take him to school and stuff. So to say oh, you were mistreated. I doubt what did he do? What did he do? So I don't believe it.
Yes.
I will say, in defense of Julie, I think she did what she's been allowed to do. Even in my raising, she was never allowed to discipline me. And I felt like that was an odd thing because she was the one that was there every day. You know, she was doing school drop off. She was doing school pickup. She was
I can kind of understand that. Like when you are the parent. So I have 2 kids that are not Sean's biological kids. He has raised them. But one of my big like concerns was I'll discipline them because I didn't want them to have an issue with him. I also didn't want their biological family to get mad that, you know, especially in the beginning. Now, yeah, Sean can discipline them, but it took me a long time to get there because in the beginning, you know, when I got with Sean, Caden was like 6 months old and Paris was like 3. And, you know, they went to their grandparents on their dad's side every other weekend or once a month, and they were very close with them. Their dad was kind of in and out, whatever. But if they would have went to their dad and would have been like, "Oh, Sean got on to me," yes, he would have been like, "What?" You know what I'm saying? So I was very much like, I discipline Paris and Caden. I got them. If they do something, let me know. I got it. So yeah, maybe she chose not to discipline because she wanted to try to protect that relationship. She didn't know how, you know, Kyle and Lindsie would feel if she tried to discipline them. Maybe she worried that they would do the whole, "You're not my mom and you can't tell me what to do." So it's not like it was meant to be harmful. It's not like I can tell you as somebody that did the same thing. It's not one of those things where you're trying to hurt the kid by doing that. You're trying to like, you do it out of love. Like, you know what? Sean is their step parent. I know it's hard for them to have a step parent. I know it's hard the fact that their dad doesn't live with us and I didn't make it with their dad. So you know what? I just want them to like him and get along with him and him be the one that they can go to maybe when they're in trouble. It was not, you know, it's not like she done that to be malicious at all.
Into doctor's appointments. You know, she was mom. And if he was at work or whatever, if I got in trouble at school, I had to wait until my dad got home.
So she could do everything.
I do know a lot of parents that are just like that. That even though they are full, like Sean's parents, whenever he was little, his mom was like that. Like, "I'll just wait till your dad gets home." You know, like a lot of parents are like that. Mom will let dad kind of handle it some days. Maybe not every day, but you know.
Involving your parenting except for discipline you?
Yeah,
Would you have been receptive to her punishing you or
Yes.
disciplining you?
of course.
She
And I
wouldn't
just
say
wanted
that
to
now.
feel, it almost made me feel like,
She said Julie didn't like discipline her or whatever, but when they had that big blow up, what was Julie doing? Julie was kind of like, "Lindsie, no, you can't do that. Why did you do that, Lindsie? Chloe, go back to bed. Lindsie, if you wanted to do that, you should have done it earlier." So her saying that she feels like, you know, that Julie didn't discipline her or wouldn't say anything to her, like everything had to go through Todd. Well, that was the whole reason for the blow up. So if Julie never did discipline her, the one time she tried to, or the one time she did try to tell her what not to do, what happened? Lindsie blows up at her and, you know, attacks her and then tells Todd, "Get your bitch." So her saying, "Oh, yeah, I definitely would have." Well, no, you obviously you wouldn't because the one time that we know that she did tell you something, you acted out.
okay, she's good to do all of these other things, but she's not capable of doing this. And it wasn't because she wasn't capable. And I just wanted to feel like her kid.
Whole. You wanted to
Yeah.
feel like you were wholly a
Like
part
she's just
of-
mom and I fucked up and she's doing something about it. No, I had to wait until my dad got home.
and that set you apart from your siblings because either
She
one of them
disciplined them.
could discipline them.
Yeah.
And where was Kyle in all of that?
Boarding school.
Okay, so over a year after you finally address your parents' indictment, you contact Nashville PD because you're being followed. What was going on at this time?
I was contacted by a friend of my brother's that lived in Nashville that had let me know that Chase had said that he and my dad were having me followed.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe the same reasons that they would want the other incriminating evidence of me. I don't know.
So you have no idea.
Maybe to see
No.
if you were
What does
talking
Nashville
to
PD
the
do about you
FBI.
being followed? They take your report
Yeah, they took my report.
and then nothing is done. The following month,
That is hearsay
December
too,
of
though.
2020, there's an email from Lindsie to the FBI, from you to the FBI. And this email is a follow-up to a phone call earlier in the week. In December of 2020, you were expressing fear to the FBI because you were made aware that someone somewhere was going to expose and exploit you on a podcast episode and that this individual has acknowledged instilling fear. So this person knows that they are constantly
Yeah.
putting you in fear.
So
Who was it?
the context of that was because the FBI was already aware of the information all prior to this regarding the tape and those communications that had all already been turned over to them. And it was told to me and to my attorney per the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI that all the other parties had been made aware of a potential investigation that was going to go on regarding this tape and that there was to be no communication. They had added me to a witness list at that time as a formal protection. And it was also relayed to me that the FBI had relayed back to, I don't know if they directly talked to my dad and Chase or if it was their counsel that they talked to, but it was relayed to their camp that they were instilling fear in me.
Okay. And this is all not even relating to your parents' federal charges or crimes or
Nope.
anything. This is beyond that, unrelated to.
When I found out about the initial situation with, that's when I filed that initial report. Then fast forward to 2019, had the meeting in Chattanooga. We were trying to determine if I would file a report in Chattanooga based on what was said in Chattanooga because the restaurant was in Chattanooga, or if I would file locally.
I was so hurt that he claimed I was wearing a wire. But it's like, oh, then I turned around and I went and reported it to the police. Hello. You made his case. You made his case.
My attorney just advised me to file in my county that has jurisdiction over me, and then they would let us know if it was proper venue or if it was improper venue. My county was the one that let me know, you could try to take it to Nashville because that's who has jurisdiction over them. But because of all of the state lines that are involved, this is really an FBI issue.
Have you ever said this to Savannah? Does
No.
she know all of the ins and outs here? Because it just feels like, okay, Lindsie talked to the FBI, but that could mean anything. Did you doing the email follow-up with the FBI about being exposed and exploited on a podcast, did that go anywhere? Whatever happened with that?
Yes. They had actually followed up with me via telephone call. They actually advised me and gave me the phone numbers to the probation officer to report this information to the probation officer because it would be against their bond conditions.
Whose?
My dad and Julie's.
Oh,
They were
because
out on bond.
Okay, so Todd and Julie are out on bond,
Mm-hmm.
and someone was going to expose and exploit you on a podcast, meaning Todd?
Yes,
Okay, so did you end up reporting this to his probation officer?
I did.
You did.
Mhm.
And what happened?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't know that they ever have to follow back up with you. I just reported it, and I'm assuming they maybe spoke to him about it. I don't know.
Lindsay's
That is crazy though. Okay, my parents are out on bond. I helped put them there, but whatever, they're out on bond. I find out that my dad's going to be talking about me on his podcast, which is not illegal. It's not illegal to say this is what's going on with me and my daughter, Lindsie. This is where I stand with Lindsie. You went to his PO to try to have him put back in jail just because he said he was going to talk about you on a podcast. I mean, I would feel like Lindsie and Kale, out of anybody, would understand that talking about the people in your life is not harassment. You know what I'm saying? That's what they do for a living. So much so that Chris Lopez had to take Kale to court because she talked about him so much on a podcast. She talked about him so much on a podcast that he had to take her to court, say, listen, we have 2 kids. She's constantly talking about it. Every time we get into it, she's talking about it. Can we please get an RO? Shut her up. She's talking about all her baby daddies. You know what I'm saying? She can share anything. And when they've come to her and quit talking about me, this is my life. I share everything. It's just a part of who I am. I share everything. It's my right too to share my side of the story. So Kale and Lindsie, who do this for a living, that's crazy in my opinion that you find out he's going to talk about you on a podcast. You don't even know exactly in what regards it's going to be. You don't even know if he's going to say, you know what, I forgive my daughter, Lindsie. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what he's going to say. Before the podcast even airs, you go to his PO to try to have him violated or something. And you wonder.
record keeper. She's a receipts holder. So in me knowing you, I know that about you. And I feel like that is something that I also would want to have on the record somewhere to corroborate my story at a later time.
Mm-hmm.
Did you tell Todd that you did that at any point?
No, I mean,
Was it used? Was that record later on?
I can, that's a great point that you bring up, because the only way that anyone would have gotten a copy of that report to give to the press would be the people that would have knowledge of that report. That is not just out there public record. The investigators in my county contacted 3 people, Chase, my dad. They were given case numbers and I had the case number. I was called by TMZ once this indictment came down to let me know that they had a copy of this report from my county. I did not turn it in. So out of the 3 people, those other 3 people were the only 3 people, possibly an attorney for one of those 3 people, were the only people that would have had the case number to even be able to look up the report.
That you even made a report.
Correct.
So did your dad then find out that there was a report made?
Yes, because the investigators called to let them know. I mean, they're investigating it.
Okay.
So that's how he became aware. It wasn't a secret. Like, I filed the informational report. I gave the investigators the phone numbers of the people that they needed to contact because I wanted to get to the bottom of it. Like, who has this? If it exists, somebody needs to be accountable for it.
You only made an informational report about the sex tape part of the conversation?
Yes. So that's the report after the indictment came down that was leaked to TMZ. It was roughly around 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time that I had gotten a call coming from TMZ.
Why'd they have to call you so early?
I have no idea why they called me that early, but scared the shit out of me and let me know that they had a copy of that police report. That is not public
I
record.
will tell you at TMZ and like the Sun, several media outlets, like I had it on my phone for a while to where I got a notification anytime like David had court or something. I went into the system, put his name in, put on notifications. And if anything happened, if he got arrested or something like that, it sent me a notification. You can do that on people. You can literally, like, I don't know how to do it. I wouldn't know how to do it for like where she lives, but somebody that lived in the county that David lives in told me how to do it for their county. I ended up unsubscribing to it one time and I was like, oh, it was an accident. But yeah, you can do that. I had somebody else tell me beforehand that a lot of reporters do that. Like they literally have, it's called something. TMZ finds all kind of stuff. If you're a celebrity, like they have people in the courthouse that that'll call and be like, hey, so and so just got arrested, or so and so got court for this. So TMZ, if it's TMZ, more than likely, like they have like drama was already going on with you and your parents. Your parents were being indicted, so they were keeping a close eye on y'all, probably.
For anybody to be able to pull. There is no database for them to go and just randomly start typing in Chrisley
Right,
and
Carol.
find out that information, right? They would have had a case number and done an open records request to be able to get a copy of that police report. The only people that knew about that police report were the people that were involved.
You don't have to have the case number, though. I have pulled FOIAs many times and got like police records, and you don't have to know the case number. You just got to know the name, like the jurisdiction that it's in, and what you're looking for, like around about what you're looking for, and the name of the person. You know what I'm saying? Like Lindsie Chrisley, any police reports involving Lindsie Chrisley that were filed in the month of September. I'm requesting any reports that are filed by Lindsie Chrisley or in regards to Lindsie Chrisley in the month of June 2019.
That I listed. So one of those 3 people were the ones that turned it over to TMZ.
Because obviously that's not information that you want to get out.
Absolutely not.
The letter used in the most recent trailer.
Right. Yeah. Rochella, somebody came in my video yesterday saying like, oh, if a kid cuts the parents off, it's always the parents' fault. I do not believe that. I know parents that are literally like great parents and the child just don't want to obey the rules, don't want to be respectful, and cuts their parents off. So, and I hate that you have to deal with that. Yeah, constantly test the boundaries. I'm so sorry about that. That's hard when you have a kid that, don't want to listen and wants to cause issues and can't see how much you love them and how much you're trying to protect them and how much you're just trying to be good to them.
From Lindsie to the FBI. This is the infamous letter that your entire family constantly references.
Mm-hmm.
In regards to you and your
about
involvement with
that,
your parents' financial crimes. What does the letter say?
Good afternoon. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. However, another holiday goes by and I'm still a victim of Todd Chrisley's harassment. I did as you all directed, spoke to Kimberly in Nashville, who reported to her supervisor in Atlanta, Officer Crawford, whom I left 2 messages for prior and never got a return call. She informed me that she was going to be contacting Todd on his behavior and would be speaking to her supervisor, who reports to the court. I told Officer Crawford my concerns with her contacting Todd rather than going through the legal system for there to be an order for him to stop. And my concerns were confirmed on his podcast released on Wednesday, December 23rd, 2020. Again, I will reiterate, this has absolutely zero to do with his freedom of speech. This has to do with the fact that I was informed last August that he was made aware that he was not to be speaking to me and harassing me. And I deal with this on a weekly basis. This is all due to the fact that he is under federal indictment. I'm told he and Chase are having me followed, and now he's claiming that he wants charges taken out against me for filing a false police report.
I am told. Hearsay.
I have never filed any false police report. This is a direct attempt by himself and his legal counsel to silence me. He attempts to create conspiracy theories around his current situation, and it's old and tired. The government might be standing by to allow him to continue. However, I'm a human being that has experienced extreme amount of emotional stress and financial stress because of this. I am again requesting, as I have before, and as I have through his probation officer that dodges calls for there to be an injunction or protection order issued through his federal case. I'm starting to wonder if she takes her job seriously or if she's biased or what's actually going on. I have remained silent on this matter in hopes that going about it the right way would work itself out. I will not continue to be silent and plan to shed light on what I've been subjected to as far as this case is concerned. I'm in no way or shape or
So she's literally saying, I would like his probation officer to like do her job and like violate him for harassment. But then she says, I will no longer be silent though. So you want him arrested and now you gonna start speaking out? You know what I'm saying? Like, what? I'm no longer gonna be silent? So you're gonna do what he's been doing. You're gonna talk and tell your piece. It's not illegal.
form involved with this monster. I ask you to simply have protection through the courts and stop him from weekly harassment until his case is heard and justice is served. I would like opportunity to present the factual information to the judge on this case through the clerk of court and for her to not tell me no. I'm a human being who should not have to be a victim of this kind of behavior, especially when this individual is out on bond with no end in sight. It gives you zero hope in the system and this proves that with little money and power, you can get away with anything.
So you were just asking to be protected from whatever your family, specifically your dad, was saying?
Because there was so many delays in the federal case, like this drug on for such a long period of time, and the harassment was continuing. And the harassment was because they were under indictment. So I knew that if this case was heard and whatever.
Maybe it was because you talked to the FBI, betrayed them, had KJ go after them like to the fullest degree, and then they can't say nothing. And I can tell you guys, I know for a fact, Katie Joy made so many videos. I mean, literally, I found one earlier where it was like, stop hurting my friend. If you keep hurting my friend, I am coming for you. That is my best friend. Quit hurting my friend. I talked to Lindsie, and Lindsay's told me all kind of stuff. And Todd, he knows that I know. And guess what? Everything that I know, all the stuff that Lindsie told me, he knows I know. And guess what? I talked to the FBI. And me and my lawyer, we're meeting with Josh Waite soon. Like, so Todd and Julie's hearing this on Without a Crystal Ball's channel, but they can't respond to it on their podcast. They can't respond.
Justice needed to be served, whether they were found not guilty or.
I just think it's wild. She's trying to act like this whole time she just said nothing. That she just sat back, said nothing, and out of nowhere, Savannah started talking crap. Out of nowhere, Todd started talking crap, and she did nothing wrong. I definitely say Todd, the tweets were bad. I don't agree with them. I think it was horrible. If Chase tried to get that tape, that's horrible. Like, you know, if my sibling was trying to have my parents indicted and working with the FBI, and I found out like she potentially had a tape, I don't think the first thing in my mind would be like, you know what, let me get that tape and tell her, you know what, you better go tell the FBI the truth. Stop lying to the FBI. If you lie to them anymore and my parents get arrested, this is going out. I don't think I would think that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that would be my first go-to, because from where Savannah and Chase is sitting, that's what's going on. Their parents are about to go to prison because Kyle and Kyle's wife and Lindsie spoke to the FBI. I mean, it's common, like it's confirmed that the warehouse that all this started with, Lindsie gave them the location of the warehouse. Okay, so that's confirmed. And that's where Todd and Savannah's sitting. That their brother and sister talk to the FBI and help take their parents down. And that the last time they saw their sister, she cussed their mom out. And allegedly, it got physical. She claims Julie hit her, I guess. I believe more than likely she probably got physical with Julie. I can't see Julie doing that. But whatever. Whoever got physical with whoever, that's the last they saw of you is that. And then she's like, I don't know why Savannah just started tweeting. I don't know why Todd just started tweeting. What the tweet says, come for me if you want. Come for my mama. It's over. You're done for. Well, clearly because Savannah felt like you were coming for her mom. She just pulled that out of thin air.
Found guilty, that there would at least be an end to it.
So that
But
letter,
this was the infamous letter of me being involved in,
the FBI,
Yeah.
with the FBI. You were just asking for protection
yes,
from harassment and also because you wanted to get to the bottom of the sex tape scandal.
yes, that letter was on the screen of the Lifetime show Back to Reality. It was 8 episodes and I was mentioned in all of episode 3 to my knowledge. And then again, and I guess there's a season finale. And I just don't understand why do it? Because I was truly willing, regardless of all of these things that have transpired, right? I was happy when my parents got out of prison. Like, I found out through your book club that my parents were pardoned. I was happy. We don't have to talk about each other, right? Like, we don't have to, I'm not bothering you. You're regurgitating things for a narrative that's trying to be.
The thing about it is when they got out of prison, they didn't say anything about Lindsie. They started their podcast back up. They started doing all this advocacy work to take down, abusive employees within the BOP, take down, shut down prisons that shouldn't be up and running. That was their focus. However, when they started their podcast back, a question that they kept getting, what about Lindsie? What about Lindsie? What about Lindsie? They're doing another reality TV show. They're doing interviews with Savannah and then with Savannah and Grayson. Where's Lindsie? And when they did bring up Lindsie, Todd said, I'm going to address this, and this will be the last time I address it. So they did one podcast where they addressed Lindsie. Yes, it was addressed in the show because guess what? This was a show about them getting out of prison and resuming their life. So yeah, they all talked about where they stood with Lindsie. That would be normal to me. Like, it would be kind of weird if they didn't, probably. They also addressed Kyle too. And in that same podcast, he also addressed Kyle. But it ain't like they've just been going on and on and on and on. They addressed it once on the podcast. They talked about it on the reality TV show. And since then, they have been living life not talking about Lindsie.
One that's just factually untrue. And to do an entire episode on me, to have me mentioned again in the season finale. And number one, I'm not being paid for this. And at the end of the day, if anybody wants...
Hold on. So by her logic, if her name is mentioned on the show, she should be getting paid. And so by her mentioning Todd and Julie on the podcast, should they be getting paid? Listen, I can be for you when you make sense. When you make sense, I can be like, good point. You made a good point. Kale should call BS on that. Lindsie shouldn't have even said it because she knows better. Lindsie, every time you mention Will on a podcast, you got to pay him. Kale, every time you talked about Javi on a podcast, did you have to pay him? No. And if somebody would have said that, if somebody would have been like, if Javi would have been like, I mentioned on a podcast all the time, but I ain't getting paid. What? Like, I'm sure Kale would have been like, what? Yeah, I don't have to pay you to mention you. Like, that's girl, if you was on the episodes, then I would be like, yeah, she should have got paid. But because they mentioned you, girl, get real.
To rebuttal and say, well, why is it about payment? They were paid. Why are you using me for a storyline on a show that I'm not?
Because it's their real life and people are curious. And of course they got to address it.
Involved in.
You don't get to defend yourself.
I don't get to defend myself. It's a one-sided.
You have your own platform where you can defend yourself, honey.
Narrative, which is what led us here. Tried to process this privately ahead of this show airing. I tried to get in contact with my dad through my nanny just to speak as adults. That wasn't honored. I feel numb.
Did y'all just hear her? I'm really like, I didn't really believe her before, but I really didn't like have an issue. But I'm like, I tried to get in touch with my daddy through my nanny. That wasn't honored. What do you mean it wasn't honored? You mean he didn't want to? To say it wasn't honored is to paint a picture that somehow he was being dishonoring or that he did something wrong against you. Oh, I tried to get in touch with my dad. It wasn't honored. Ma'am, that is very manipulative to say something wasn't honored just because something wasn't done your way. Because you were painting a picture that the person that didn't do what you wanted them to do was somehow dishonoring you. That is not, no, they didn't have to. And Todd explained why he didn't. Todd explained he loves his kids. He loves Lindsie. He loves Kyle. But he has to think about his wife who went to prison, who has PTSD from prison, who was taken away from her kid, who missed. First off, let's really talk about this, Lindsie. Okay. Chloe has issues with abandonment now because her mom abandoned her. Her dad, Kyle, abandoned her. Then she got placed with Todd and Julie, who adopted her. And then they, to no fault of their own, abandoned her. She struggled so bad. And that was something that you and Kyle were a part of. Grayson, his graduation, his mom wasn't there. Grayson had played baseball from the time that he was old enough to swing a bat. He could have went to college playing baseball, but guess what? He quit playing baseball. You want to know why? Because his mom, Julie, was at every game. When she went to prison, he quit playing because he knew his mom couldn't be there. She missed his graduation. She missed him going to college for the first time. She missed him setting up his dorm. He got in a wreck and she was in prison. And you wonder why, like, that you hurt them. You hurt your loved ones. Chloe, Julie, Grayson, Chase, Savannah. What you did, like, they cannot be undone. The trauma that they dealt with, losing their parents to the system, and then everything that happened, like, you were a part of that, and they blame you for being a part of that. And Todd said he loves his kids. He'll always love his kids. Lindsie, Kyle. But because they have hurt Julie, Chloe, Grayson, Chase, and Savannah, he cannot have a relationship with them. And he cannot keep subjecting everybody to Lindsie and Kyle. I mean, what if he makes amends with them again and then, God forbid, something happens down the road and then here we are again. Kyle and Savannah are conspiring to have something crazy done. You know what I'm saying? I mean, not Savannah, Lindsie. Like, he put up a boundary, and for her to be like, he didn't honor it. Like, I reached out to my dad through my nanny, told him to contact me. He didn't honor that. He's protecting his family.
It's like, how much more can one person take?
So when you are, we'll say, doom scrolling on TikTok,
Mm-hmm.
I was doom scrolling yesterday and I came across your dad on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And on the podcast, he says that, to his knowledge, you are an exceptional mother and he loves you and you're his daughter. But all these things have happened and have led to this point. What do your heart and your head say when you're hearing him say one thing on a podcast, but actions speak louder than words?
I mean, I will repeat what I was kind of getting into a little bit ago, that my dad has a pull on me that I don't understand. I love him because he's my dad. I don't like the actions that have been done, but clearly over many years that we've gone through, I have been on a yo-yo of this has been done and I came back, and that was done and I came back, and you got indicted and I involved myself with you. And that was even after the sex tape, which I feel like is one of the most egregious things that anybody could do to anybody. That's such a violation in many different ways. When I saw the video that you're talking about, when I was doom scrolling on TikTok, it made me second guess doing this. And I think that was the intent.
Like, you just have an unconditional look.
You think his intent of finally answering the question that so many people have been asking, what do you think about Lindsie? What do you think about Lindsie? How do you feel about Lindsie? Have you reconciled with Lindsie? You think she really, see, the thing is she's that manipulative, in my opinion. She's that manipulative So she thinks he is. A lot of times that's how people are. When they think a certain way, they think other people think the same way. He literally said, like, I keep getting asked about this, so I'm going to address it once and only once. But in her mind, she thinks he said that, like, I love her and I'll always love her, just to, like, get at her. He had no idea you were about to speak out. He didn't know that. So how could he have done it just to, like, try to pull you back in to keep you from talking?
Loyalty to your dad, I feel. Like you just want to have a relationship with him. You love him. Don't want to do wrong by him. And I think that's very clear. It's evident to people who listen to your podcast. It's evident to the people that know you. And I just wish that he could see that so that maybe he could take a step back and say, maybe Lindsie didn't do this. Do you think that he really believes that you were involved, or do you think that you were an easy scapegoat, or can both be true?
I think both can be true. I could not even begin to imagine what it would, I know what it feels like for your dad to come after you on Twitter and podcasts and various forms of social media and do these interviews and press and all of this stuff. But I can't imagine the pressure that would be there if you're under a state investigation and a federal investigation involving the federal government. Like I can't imagine the fear that was in that. So a lot of times I believe that when people are in fear situations, they concoct things, you know, in their mind to try to make sense of what's going on. And maybe that was a part of what happened.
Like maybe during that time of fear, he's like, well, Lindsie is in communication with the FBI, not really having full context or clarity on what you're in communication with them for.
And I think that's the thing that hurts so bad, because they know what the letter said and they know the actions that have been done. And it was still used to perpetuate a narrative that is just completely untrue. And it's really sad to say, but I could forgive it if you had 2 years that you spent time in prison. You should have had 2 years to think about all the things that were done, and you're still allowing this stuff to go on and you're not doing anything to stop it. So you're as guilty as the other people that are involved, whether it was spearheaded by somebody else or you.
And that I think is not fair. And it's a misrepresentation of who you are. And it's perpetuating essentially the harassment that you have received, the backlash that you've received.
You spend 2 years in prison, and Savannah has spent all of this time fighting and doing whatever she's doing politically. And I get it, but that should have been enough for 8 episodes instead of using me and then not giving me an opportunity to speak and share what I have. Because just like they can flash up something that I'm not ashamed of, I'm not ashamed of that letter at all.
And you should
I'm not sorry for that letter.
I'm trying to find
Ever had a conversation at work you wish you could do over again?
I'm trying to find the Dr. Phil thing. Hold on, let's see. I can't show it.
There's been some great people.
Do you have an agenda in terms of what you would like to see happen to your father and your stepmother over these indictments?
No, I feel like if they aren't guilty, I hope that they don't have to do any time for the crimes. And if they are, then I still hope that they don't have to do any time for the crimes, because they're my parents and I don't like them, but I love them and I'll always love them. But for what they've done to me with this media circus, I will never forgive that.
Because they've held you up to ridicule, they threatened you.
Right. And I've had to deal with all kinds of shaming comments. And yes, there's been some great people on social media, you know, that have reached out and sent amazing, empowering messages, you know, about toxic family and stuff. But I've also received really negative, nasty ones. And why would you do this to your family? I have no responsibility in that. I'm not going to take responsibility for something that I didn't do. And if they felt like that they were right, when I say they, I'm talking about my family, why does it collectively take all of them to gang up on me?
If you're called to testify, if they subpoena you in this case, if it does go to trial, and if you're asked about attempts to leverage you, to extort you, whatever adjectives they want to put on it, you're going to say exactly what happened.
Yeah, and now I'm on record here saying it, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you read the indictments against your father and stepmother?
I have.
And the indictments are pretty clear. Bank fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy to defraud the United States. And they're talking about claiming that they had money that they didn't have, using that to misrepresent themselves to lending institutions and people that they were doing business deals with. Do you believe that took place?
Honestly, I've never seen my parents do anything in that regard illegally.
So I can't really say if it did or if it didn't.
Where's the bottom here? I mean, are you concerned that if this goes forward, that your name might wind up on documents or something somewhere? Do you have an
Oh, no,
agenda?
it cut off. Hey.
Did you find out that your father and stepmother were going to face charges by a federal grand jury in Atlanta? And I think that was for bank fraud, wire fraud, tax evasion.
I started receiving texts that were talking about how I needed to be able to help them and could he meet with me. He asked me if I could meet him in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I thought maybe he's going to tell me sorry for things that have happened over the past couple of years. But when I got there, it was a completely different story.
Do you think maybe?
She said she received a text. In the video, didn't she say Kyle and Nanny contacted her? I don't remember. I'm trying to think. I'm gonna have to watch her Dr. Phil episode to see if there's any like conflicting stories or if it's the same story.
Because he was in trouble, that it maybe humbled him some, or that he was going to maybe.
Exactly what I thought.
What was his attitude when you got together in a room? Where'd you meet in Chattanooga?
I met him at a barbecue place. He just looked at me and hugged me, but I could tell that his guard was up. I mean, you can tell by people's body language. I feel like he hugged me out of it being like a courtesy.
What happened there in that meeting?
He told me that he was going to be indicted for, various financial crimes and that they didn't do it. And he asked me multiple times if I had met an individual at Starbucks that he believed was part of the investigation. And I said, no. And he said, no, you have. And I said, no, I haven't. And he said, you met this person multiple times at Starbucks and there was an affair that was going on. And I said, no, that's not the truth. And I said, but while we're on the topic of lies, let's talk about the social media stuff that I've endured for the past 2 years from you and your 2 minion children. And then that's.
Hold up. She says she went there hoping she was going to get an apology. And when she saw him, she just wanted to hug him, but he didn't hug her. He asked her if she was wearing a wire. She literally said, I just wanted to hug him. Didn't she say with Chaos, she just wanted to hug him? Like she had that feeling of just wanting to hug him? Did she not say that? Now here she's saying he did hug her, but you could tell by his body language he wasn't genuine. She said, oh, she just, he has this hold over her and she just went in with a different mindset. And now she's like, but what about your 2 minions?
When I got the warning that Chase had incriminating evidence against me, nude photos, and had obtained this tape for $5,000. At that point, the conversation was over for me. And
hold up. Did she say that happened at the meeting? Yeah, I think she did say that happened at the meeting. Okay.
Attorney advised me to file the police report.
Father told you that his PR team was going to put out a story, and the story was that you were sleeping with a government official and told him lies about your family.
Yes.
And so you turned him in because you were.
He believed was part of the investigation.
Crap, I backed it up. Sorry.
And he said, no, you have. And I said, no, I haven't. And he said, you met this person multiple times at Starbucks and there was an affair that was going on. And I said, no, that's not the truth.
Yeah, and then he told her to leave her phone in the
And
car.
I said, but while we're on the topic of lies, let's talk about the social media stuff that I've endured for the past 2 years from you and your 2 minion children. And then that's when I got the warning that Chase had incriminating evidence against me, nude photos, and had obtained this tape for $5,000. At that point, the conversation was over for me, and my attorney advised me to file the police report.
Your father told you that his PR team was going to put out a story, and the story was that you were sleeping with a government official and told him lies about your family.
I think he'll respond, Marcia.
And so you turned him in because you were mad at him. So that's where the government was coming from, not from any real basis for these indictments, but it was just you having a vendetta against him.
Right.
Did you backdoor secret source the federal government against your family?
No.
You were not a whistleblower that turned the federal government onto your family's wrongdoing.
No.
Did you want to bring Chrisley Knows Best down in flames?
No.
Did he think you would go along with this just to protect him? I mean, look, it's your father. He's getting ready. Maybe he's going to go to prison, and if you'll just kind of go along with this story, then maybe he's out of trouble.
Right. And I think it never made sense to me because what he was accusing me of didn't have anything to do with the federal side of his investigation.
So how is it even going to matter?
The state side of his investigation.
What was the state side that he wanted you to roll over on?
He claimed residency in Florida, and the state was saying that he lived in Georgia.
He lied about living in Florida to get a tax break as being a Florida resident, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah. So that's what he was asking you to say. You lied about
Yeah.
that.
But I didn't even say anything at all.
So he goes through this with you, and he says over and over, yes, you did, yes, you did, yes, you did. And in fact, you had an affair with this person. When you left there, it was clear to him that you weren't going for this, right?
I think, yeah, I mean, it was very clear because I said no to that, multiple times. I said, no, that didn't happen.
I mean, at some point, he realized you're not doing it.
Right.
Is that when he threatened to
So
expose you and do all this stuff?
it just gave me the warning that I would be careful because Chase has this, information and it wouldn't end well.
I wanted to ask you something quick. What's the deal with
That's
Really?
At this point, hashtag gloves off. I don't know. I feel like it is the bottom. What has happened is very scummy.
My experience has been that federal prosecutors, state prosecutors don't bring cases they don't feel they can win. They bring slam dunk cases. Don't know, but let's assume they got all their ducks in a row before they pull the trigger here. I cannot imagine USA giving a big hug
Fair hug.
to this show if they've got people that have defrauded the government, lenders, landlords, people like that. That's rewarding bad behavior. If this all goes away, what happens? What happens to the family then?
Well, since they will be watching this, they're going to say that was my agenda from the get-go because I wasn't on the show for them not to have one. I don't care if they want to stay on there and act stupid. That's on them. I don't care. I think that will be a humbling experience.
You've not been questioned. You've not given evidence. You've not provided documents. You've not given testimony. You've had no involvement in this whatsoever. How can this be your problem?
Honestly wish that they would reveal who the witnesses were. I wish they would because it would.
Didn't she say?
Yeah.
Hold on, Katie Joy. Wait, did she say she could have potentially been? I know Katie said that. Like, you're harassing potential witnesses.
Allegations against me because it's not me.
Let's say this goes to trial and they start calling these witnesses, and the witness list comes out, and you're not on it. You're not a source. You're not a witness. You didn't even give documents. You did nothing.
In fact, I was asked if I ever would testify, and I said no.
Why would you be asked if you ever would testify? Who asked you that? Also, so the FBI and federal prosecutors, the federal government wins around 98 to 99% of their criminal cases. But that number doesn't mean they are magically unbeatable. It's mostly because of how the federal system works. They only take strong cases or cases they think that are strong. The FBI and federal prosecutors don't charge most cases they investigate. They'll often spend months or years gathering rock solid evidence, surveillance, financial records, wiretaps, etc. If the evidence isn't strong, they simply don't file charges. So by the time a case goes to court, it's already a sure win. About 90 to 95% of federal cases end in plea deals. First off, if you have a federal case against you and oh my goodness, most people know they're probably guilty. they're going to take a plea deal because they don't want to go to trial against the federal government. So I feel like, a lot of people are probably guilty. A big percentage of them are probably guilty. Maybe the small percentage that aren't guilty, they try to take it to court and whatever happens. But a lot of them take plea deals. The defendants admit guilt to get a reduced sentence. The Chrisleys did not take a plea deal. There's a reason they didn't take a plea deal. You want to know the kind of people that don't take plea deals? People that are innocent or people that are really freaking insane? Those are the type of people that don't take plea deals. People that are innocent and think there's no way this can happen. There's no way I can be found guilty. I'm innocent. Or people that are out of their minds. And if, in my opinion, I think even if Todd was to that level of delusion, like some people say, like he's a narcissist, he's controlling, whatever. Like, say they did it, and Todd was that level of like, yeah, like I'm not going to plead guilty. I'm going to take it to trial. I think Julie would be like, listen, Todd, we did do some of this. I am scared to take it to trial and then lose. Yeah, they did. They apparently offered to not charge Julie if Todd took the plea. They both said they wouldn't plead to something they didn't do. Yep. Exactly. And I really feel like if they were guilty of this, Julie would have been like, no. They were seeking life sentences for Todd. I don't remember what they were seeking for Julie, but they were seeking like a freaking life sentence for Todd. It was insane. So I feel like if they were guilty, they would have been like, let's take a plea deal. And they didn't. So that's telling to me. And two, the fact that they've gotten out of prison and they continue to talk about it. Like a lot of people, if they were guilty, went to prison, but then got pardoned, they just shut up about it. They'd be like, you know what? We were guilty. We went to prison. We were sentenced and we got a pardon. Let's shut up about it. We don't want to keep bringing attention to ourselves. We're going to never talk about it again. Right. Just the re-sentencing of Julie alone lets you see how dishonest the judge was. And like the acts that she had to grind with the Chrisleys. It was disgusting. Anyways, you guys, we've been going at 2 hours and 36 minutes. So it's 9 o'clock here. I have to get up in the morning. My niece is having a housewarming party. Yay. And my nephew is here after my son's dentist appointment. We went to see my nephew who is in from Colorado, and we brought him home with us. So he's been hanging out with the kids, but my son just left to go to work. My other son had a football game tonight, but he wasn't feeling well. So he set this game out. Coach was like, if you're not feeling good, don't come to the game. So I'm going to go up, hang out with my nephew, go to bed at a decent time. And then tomorrow night, I probably will be live, though. I'll be doing some work tomorrow night because I got a lot of stuff I got to get caught up on. But anyways, guys, yeah, I'll be live tomorrow night. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I appreciate y'all. Give this video a thumbs up if you guys don't mind. If you come across any of my videos that you haven't watched, watch them for a few minutes. If you're not into it, just play it for a few minutes. Kind of get my views up if you guys don't mind. Hype the videos if you have the option. I'm trying to get my views back up on YouTube because they've been pretty low lately because I missed a lot of work over the past year. My life hit it blew up and I missed a lot. So it's really affected me on all my platforms. So if you come across a video of mine that you haven't seen, even if it's something you're not interested in, let it play for 10 minutes. Hit the thumbs up, leave a comment, scroll on to something you want to see. Or if you find something you do want to watch it. Go follow me on my other platforms and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, everyone. Good night, y'all.